Suddenly, Si-Chen opens his eyes and finds himself in a hospital bed. He's confused to see people walking around outside, and a world that isn't on fire. Looking at a calendar, he realizes he has returned 10 years into the past to his university days. The date is May 16, 2015-7. This is exactly 3 years before the first Demon King, Wrath, is supposed to appear and open the gates of hell. A system message appears in his vision, stating that the fusion for power called gluttony is complete. Si-Chen realizes this is his one chance to change the future. He checks his status window and sees that, even though he is level 1, all his stats are at 100. In his previous life, he was at the very bottom of the food chain at the National University for Awakened Powers, a school that only takes students with potential. He spent 4 years being a punching bag for everyone else because he didn't awaken his powers until much later. A new screen pops up showing the Lightning Assassin, class, which was his title in the future. He can feel a familiar power flowing through him, and realizes he might have inherited his future abilities or awakened much earlier than before. He decides to test his strength, but he's interrupted when his roommate, Ma Long, bursts into the room. Ma Long is an E-rank flower chanter who was also at the bottom of the school's hierarchy. In the original timeline, he was killed just 3 days into the Demon King's rampage. Seeing his friend alive and breathing makes the reality of his return finally sink in for Si-Chen. Ma Long is shocked to see that Si-Chen's injuries from a beating he took the previous day have completely vanished. Since Ma Long can't see the system screens, he still thinks Si-Chen is unawakened. He reminds Si-Chen that the school's ranking test is tomorrow, and it's a requirement for graduation. Ma Long drags him out of the hospital, insisting they need to go back and prepare for the exam. Walking through the campus, Si-Chen can't help but stare at all the students. After living through a world of constant death and ruin, seeing so many living people in one place, it just feels surreal. Ma Long thinks he's losing his mind, but Si-Chen? Oh, he's already focused on the future. He knows that if he doesn't act now, the same hopeless timeline will just repeat itself. To change things, he needs to rank up as fast as possible. And in this era, the only way to do that is by clearing dungeons and killing monsters. But the major guilds, they have a monopoly on almost every site. Without a guild, a normal person has 0 chance of getting stronger. He looks back at his status screen. He's still level 1, but having 100 in every stat, that's unheard of. The government, they use a ranking system from S to E to categorize everyone's power. Most students remain E rank their entire lives, and only those with talent or connections ever reach D rank. Si-Chen knows that based on his past experience, he's already far beyond a typical student. Just as he's thinking this, a basketball flies out of nowhere and slams into Ma Long's face, knocking him to the ground. A group of bullies, they're sitting on the nearby steps, and they start laughing at them. The leader, he mocks them for recovering from yesterday's beating so quickly, and demands they go buy 2 cases of drinks for his team. Ma Long is instantly terrified and starts apologizing, offering to go to the store right away to avoid more trouble. Si-Chen stops him, telling his friend that he isn't the one who should be apologizing. Looking at the leader Si-Chen, he starts to remember exactly who this guy is. Memories of their previous encounters flood back, you know? He recalls a time when these same guys, they dragged him into a restroom, held his head underwater in a sink while Ma Long, poor Ma Long, begged them to stop. The bully, he claimed he was just helping Si-Chen by giving him a nudge to finally awaken his powers. In that memory, Si-Chen eventually passed out from the drowning, and the bullies, they just walked away because they were bored. Seeing that same face now, Si-Chen realizes he's finally in a position to settle the score. As Si-Chen stands there, he thinks about how pure evil isn't something exclusive to the demon realm. It's just as common in the human world. He realizes that while the monsters are a threat, people like this, they can be just as rotten. Gongchen continues to act like he owns the campus, laughing and telling his group to keep playing with the 2 of them. Ma Long, he's ready to cave in and go buy the drinks just to end the confrontation, but Si-Chen, he stands his ground. He tells Ma Long that it's not his fault and that the ones who should be apologizing are the bullies standing in front of them. This immediately kills the laughter, you know? Don Cheng turns around, clearly offended that his usual punching bag is talking back. Ma Long, he's losing his mind with fear, but Si-Chen, he remains calm. He knows this guy's deal. Gongchen is an E-rank flower warrior who only gets away with bullying because his older brother is the student council president and the strongest student in school. In reality, Gongchen's own powers are mediocre at best. Around them, other students start to gather, mocking Si-Chen for being useless and unawakened, expecting him to get sent back to the hospital after 1 hit. Gongchen loses his patience and activates his ability, causing his arms to transform into heavy, glowing, stone-like constructs. He cracks his knuckles and asks Si-Chen what he just said, but Si-Chen doesn't back down. He looks the bully right in the eye and tells him to leave them alone from now on. Infuriated, Gongchen swings a massive, powered-up punch, intending to teach Si-Chen another lesson. The impact creates a massive shockwave, but the result isn't what anyone expected. Si-Chen blocks the heavy blow with one arm as if it were nothing. Gong-Cheng recoils in pain, clutching his own arm, while the surrounding students stand there in total shock. They can't understand how the weakest guy in school just neutralized a powered attack from an awakened student with zero effort. Gong-Cheng hits the pavement hard, coughing up blood and struggling to catch his breath. He can't wrap his head around what just happened, so he tries to convince himself that he was just caught off guard by a sneak attack. He refuses to admit that he was simply overpowered. Meanwhile, the surrounding students, they're completely baffled, just staring at the visible lightning radiating from the guy they used to call a weakling. Frustrated and humiliated, Gong-Cheng starts screaming at his friends. He demands to know why they're just standing there watching instead of jumping in to help him. He wants them to back him up and put an end to this, but his crew is too paralyzed by what they just witnessed to move a muscle. They've never seen Si-Chen act like this, and the sheer pressure coming off him is enough to keep everyone in place. Gong-Chen loses his mind and charges at Si-Chen, screaming that he's gonna kill him. Si-Chen doesn't even flinch. He catches the bully's massive fist with one hand and tells him that he's pathetic. With a single lightning-infused punch, Si-Chen sends Gong-Chen flying across the area. The impact is so hard, it leaves Gong-Chen unconscious and bleeding against a concrete wall. Everyone watching is paralyzed with fear, especially Ma Long, who can't believe how strong his friend has become. Si-Chen takes a moment to check his system and reaches a few conclusions. He can still use his Lightning Assassin class, and even at level 1, his base stats are high enough to easily overpower an E-rank student. However, he notices a problem. Despite winning the fight, his stats haven't increased at all. He wonders if simply knocking out a human isn't enough to trigger a level up. He starts walking toward the unconscious Gong-Cheng, charging lightning in his palm. Ma Long is terrified, screaming for him to stop, asking, "What in the world are you doing?" Si-Chen, though, he just ignores him, focusing entirely on discovering different ways to gain experience in this world. Just as Si-Chen is about to continue his assault, Ling Yu, the student council vice president, intervenes. She reminds him that they are still on school grounds, and suggests that Gong-Cheng has already received enough punishment. Si-Chen drops the bully, noting that the student council is very quick to defend their own. He knows that if he doesn't seriously intimidate people like this, they will just keep bothering him in the future. As he walks away with Ma Long, the rest of the students are left in a state of shock, realizing that the school's biggest losers are no longer easy targets. Ling Yu watches them go, seemingly interested in Si-Chen's sudden display of power. Back at the men's dormitory, Ma Long is frantically trying to convince their roommates that Si-Chen has finally awakened. He tells them that Si-Chen is an overpowered lightning assassin who completely destroyed Gong-Cheng. His roommates, Shang Zuo and Shan Yu, aren't buying it. Shang Zuo is an E-rank flame mage who considers himself the top dog of the dorm because he's the only one with a combat class. He mocks the idea of an awakened person needing to go for a run, claiming Ma Long must have taken a bad hit to the head. He's convinced that a loser like Si-Chen could never be a lightning assassin, and believes tomorrow's final rank evaluation will prove him right. Meanwhile, at an E-rank training den, the student council president, Gong Ting, finishes his workout. He is met by his brother, Gong-Cheng, who's now covered in bandages and just crying for help. Gong-Cheng claims that Si-Chen humiliated him in front of everyone and showed no respect for his brother's position. Gong Ting calmly tells him that he will take care of the situation. Later, while having a lavish dinner with Ling Yu, they discuss the academy's power structure. Ling Yu mentions that there are fewer than 10 D-rank students in the entire school, and that Gong Ting has already recruited all of them. She notes that ordinary students have zero chance of getting stronger because they don't have access to monster dungeons like the student council does. While the elites are busy having dinner, Si-Chen is out in the middle of a rainstorm. He's running 20 kilometers while carrying a 100 kilohertz load. He knows that even with his special system, basic physical training is the only way to build a foundation solid enough to handle high-level powers. He isn't worried about the opinions of his roommates or the threats from the student council. His only focus is pushing his body to the absolute limit to prepare for the ranking test and the chaos that is scheduled to begin in 3 years. An awakener's potential is directly linked to their physical strength. Si-Chen knows that only a powerful body can handle the true limits of a high-level class, so he pushes through his training in the pouring rain. Even with his current power, it isn't enough. In the year 2160, the Demon King Wrath is destined to emerge and slaughter millions, This is the monster that threw open the gates of hell and allowed the other Demon Kings to invade. Most importantly, Wrath is the one who killed Si-Chen's little sister. He remembers her dying in his arms as the world burned. He has 3 years before that descent, and he has to grow faster than the monster does. While he's out training, his phone rings. It's an incoming call from his sister, Si-Yoon. Hearing her voice for the first time in years feels like a miracle. She's upbeat, talking about a competition she's in, and how they can finally pay off the back rent if she wins. Si-Chen can barely speak. Overcome with the emotion of hearing her alive and well, he realizes that everything has truly begun anew, and he vows to protect her this time. He finishes his laps and returns to the dormitory. It's been 8 hours since he arrived in the past, and he's finally starting to adjust. After a shower, he considers his most pressing issue. To level up, he needs to enter a demon den, but the major guilds have a complete monopoly over them. Without being part of the elite, there's no way to find monsters to kill. As he lays in bed, his thoughts drift back to the power of gluttony. Just as he starts to drift off, a system window appears, initializing a process. Suddenly, his consciousness is pulled into a void. He wakes up standing in a sea of red water, staring at a massive, dark tower stretching into a purple sky. He was just in his bed a second ago, and now he's in a place he's never seen before. Si-Chen stands in a strange world of red water, staring up at a massive dark tower. He realizes he's somehow inside a monster dungeon. Suddenly, several E-rank monsters called Gravebounds emerge from the water. Even though he's confused, he doesn't waste any time. He switches to his Lightning Assassin class and starts clearing them out. He notices that killing these monsters actually grants him experience points and loot, something he couldn't get from fighting the bullies at school. Dealing with these weak monsters is a walk in the park for him. Within a few moments, he hits level 2 and then level 3. His status window shows that every stat has increased by 5 points. This is exactly what he needed, a private place to train where the guilds can't stop him. However, a new system message pops up over a dead monster labeled Devourer. He decides to test it out. As he activates the skill, the monster's corpse is absorbed into a glowing light and transforms into a card. This card grants him the new class, Gravehound King, a cloud warrior type. Si-Chen is stunned. The standard rule for everyone in this world is that you can only ever have one class, but thanks to the power of gluttony, the very same ability that belonged to Demon King Lan Yue, Si-Chen can now hold multiple classes at once. The potential is limitless. He could, essentially have an endless number of powers. While he wonders why he was given this specific ability and what the purpose of the tower is, the ground begins to shake violently. A massive rumble echoes through the area, and the air becomes thick with an overwhelming pressure. Something far stronger than the E-rank hounds is about to show itself. A powerful figure emerges from the Tower of Darkness, claiming it has been waiting for Si-Chen for a long time. The system tries to identify the entity, but the name is completely glitched out. The hooded monster calls Si-Chen by name, which catches him off guard. It offers him a choice: stay and guard the tower by its side, or be crushed into oblivion. Si-Chen doesn't hesitate to refuse, stating there is no way he is staying in a hellhole like this. The two begin to trade dozens of blows. Si-Chen realizes that while he is barely at a D-rank level right now, he is facing an S-rank boss. The gap in their stats is overwhelming. However, he notices that the monster is intentionally avoiding his vital spots. It's clearly trying to make him submit rather than killing him outright. Even under this intense pressure, Si-Chen remains calm and analyzes the monster's movements. He discovers a pattern, a 0.4 second wind-up before each swing, and a 0.2 second recovery window afterward. He decides to gamble everything on that tiny opening. Using his electro blade, he times a strike perfectly during the monster's recovery, successfully triggering a paralysis effect. It's only enough to hold the boss for a few seconds, but that's all he needs. He activates Godspeed, boosting his movement tenfold, and bolts toward a light source he spotted earlier. He thinks he's found the exit, but as he reaches for it, the light vanishes. The monster appears behind him, revealing that the light was just an after image it left behind. It tells him that the exit he's looking for doesn't exist, because this isn't actually a monster dungeon. The boss is impressed that Si-Chen can find a flaw in its technique and stay so composed while facing certain death. It then sheds its hood and reveals its true form, an S-rank star warrior, known as an abyssal fiend. Si-Chen is frozen in shock. This is the exact same form he saw on the Demon King Lan Yue in his previous life. The creature looks at him and calls him the one who will bring hope. The morning sun pours into the dorm room as a voice yells for everyone to wake up. Si-Chen jolts awake in his bunk, feeling the physical shift in his own body. He realizes that the entire encounter with the abyssal fiend wasn't just a dream. He has actually reached level 10 and acquired a legendary class. More importantly, he now holds the key to the Tower of Darkness. He knows that today is the day of the ranking evaluation, and he's no longer the same weak student who used to get bullied. As he gets out of bed, he prepares himself for the test that will officially reveal his new strength to the entire academy. Krang D finishes his thought by leaning right into Si-Chen's face, telling him that all he smells is a loser outcast who won't ever amount to anything. He is trying to use his status as a D-ranker to make Si-Chen feel small before the evaluation even starts. Even with the officer breathing down his neck and insulting him, Si-Chen doesn't move or show any signs of being bothered. He just stays quiet, letting the bully think he still has the look away, maintaining a cold, steady gaze that suggests he's seen far worse than a schoolyard bully. Si-Chen wakes up back in his dorm room, confused about whether his battle in the tower was real. He checks his body and finds that all his wounds have completely vanished. When he pulls up his system, he sees he's actually level 10 now, with all his stats boosted to 150. He even has the loot and the Abyssal Fiend card in his inventory, proving he didn't just dream the whole thing. He wonders what kind of rank these new stats would give him in the real world. His roommate, Shang Zuo, comes over to act like a big shot. He heard the rumors about Si-Chen's supposed strength and warns him not to try and take his spot as the top dog of the dorm. Shang Zuo explains that while they are all E ranks, there are 3 tiers within every rank. He claims to be a mid-tier E rank, how E rank will fully control the dorm and sit with higher-ups in the dark, and see why brains make you laugh at his mask, making him far superior to low-tier losers like Si Chen and Ma Long. He is convinced that today's test will prove he is the only one in the room getting stronger. As they head to the ranking ceremony, Ma Long tells Si Chen to go for a D rank to shut everyone up. When they arrive at the ceremony grounds, they run into Gong Cheng's minions. The roommates expect another confrontation, but as soon as the bullies see Si Chen, they freeze in terror. Instead of attacking, they bow deeply and address him as Sir, showing they are still traumatized from their last encounter. This leaves Shang Zhu and the others wondering if Ma Long was actually telling the truth about Si Chen's power. A student council officer named Chen Di approaches to talk trash. He mentions that Si Chen is the one who messed with the president's brother. He leans in close, claiming he can smell a person's strength, and tells Si Chen that he only smells like a loser who will never amount to anything. Si Chen doesn't flinch and simply asks if the guy is a dog. Just before Qiang Di can lose his temper, the student council president, Gong Ting, steps in. He tells his officer to stand down, admitting that his younger brother was at fault and deserved what happened. The ranking assessment finally begins. The head scientist explains that students will enter an artificial dungeon to unleash their energy against a magical core. This core measures their current output and sends the data to a public screen. Shang Zhu is called up first. He enters the portal and blasts the core with his flame magic. The machine processes his power and confirms he is still a mid-tier E rank. The crowd waits for the most important part of the data, the potential stat. This measures the highest rank an awakener can possibly achieve in the future. Shang Zuo's potential is revealed to be C rank, which is high enough to get special attention from the government. Despite the good potential score, Shang Zuo was visibly frustrated that his actual rank didn't improve to D rank after 2 years of training. Ma Long tries to comfort him, pointing out that most of them will likely score even worse. Shang Zuo and Ma Long both receive E rank low-tier results with C rank potential. Ma Long tries to look on the bright side, telling a depressed Shang Zhu that D-rank students are rare and there might not even be many new ones this year. However, the mood shifts as more talented students begin to step up. Shang Zhu eventually exits the portal, boasting a D-rank low-tier result and an impressive A-rank potential, proving he is more than just a loudmouth. The atmosphere reaches a fever pitch when the student council president, Gong Ting, is called to the stage. As the heir to the Imperial Guild and the top student in the school's history, everyone is eager to see his limit. Inside the artificial dungeon, Gong Ting prepares to strike the core. He deliberately decides to suppress his power. He's planning to save his true reveal for the graduation exams, to make a bigger impact. But despite holding back, his results are historic. The display shows he is a D-rank high tier with S-rank potential. The crowd, it erupts in cheers, and the scientists immediately decide to report these results to the higher-ups, because an S-rank potential, that's considered a national treasure. Watching from a private balcony, Headmaster Yuan Long asks Ling Yu if she came specifically to see the president's record-breaking performance. She just smiles and admits she's actually more interested in the results of a different student. Right as the excitement from the president's turn begins to settle, the announcer calls the next name on the list. Si Chen steps forward, looking completely calm as his name echoes through the stadium. Qiang Di, he mocks the group, calling them, a dorm full of E-rank losers who will just humiliate themselves at the graduation exam. Ma Long shouts back, telling the officer to wait, cause Si Chen, he'll make him eat his words. Si Chen enters the assessment portal while the roommates and student council members watch. Inside the chamber, Si Chen, he faces the magical core, a biological device used to measure energy. Joining a top guild, like the Imperial Guild, is the only way to have a successful future, and the upcoming graduation combat exam, that's the best place to prove one's worth. The exam uses 10-man teams, and the winning team, they get recruited by the Imperial Guild immediately. Qiang Di introduces a new D-rank member to Gong Ting, completing their elite 10-person squad. They're confident they have the strongest team, while Si Chen's group, it's viewed as the weakest. Outside, everyone waits for Si Chen's results. As time passes with no data, students start to leave, assuming he's too weak to even register a rank. Gong Ting prepares to head out as well, but then, the screen begins to flicker. Suddenly, it displays a D-rank, high-tier result. Ma Long, he celebrates wildly, while Gong Ting and his officers look on in disbelief. Inside, the system alerts Si Chen of an abnormality. He realizes his level 10 base stats are already equal to a high-tier D-rank, without using a class. He decides to switch to his weakest class, the Gravehound King, just to see what happens. The screen outside updates again, jumping to C-rank mid-tier. The crowd, they go into a frenzy, unable to understand how his rank is rising. Gong Ting, he's confused, and the scientists, they assume the machine's having a system error. Si Chen, he decides to test his full power, and he switches to the Abyssal Fiend class. This causes the core to react violently, sending a massive purple vortex into the sky above the university. Everyone looks up in terror at the phenomenon. The screen starts flashing warnings because the potential rank it exceeds the system's maximum bounds. Seconds later, the magical core explodes, sending a shockwave right through the stadium. The scientists they rush inside to find the core is shriveled up and, well, died. Si-Chen stands there, realizing he pushed the device too far. However, he uses his gluttony power to devour the remains of the core. He successfully acquires an A-rank skill called Delicate Magical Core, which allows him to see the ranks and threat levels of everyone within 100 meters. He tests it immediately and sees that Gong Ting is actually a C-rank high tier who has been hiding his true strength. The scientists announce that the day's testing is suspended and Si-Chen's data was likely corrupted. As the roommates try to take Si-Chen back to the dorm, Kyung-di blocks their path. He screams at Si-Chen, accusing him of breaking the machine and wasting the student council's time. Si-Chen begins to charge as lightning, thinking about taking the officer out. But Gong Ting, he stops the fight. The president, he tells Cheon-di to be respectful to their new teammate. He offers his hand to Si-Chen, inviting him to join his squad for the graduation combat exam, so they can achieve the highest score in the school's history. Gong Ting, he shocks everyone by personally inviting Si-Chen to join his elite squad. The surrounding students, they can't believe it. And Chang-di is especially bitter. He realizes that if Si-Chen joins, someone will have to be kicked off the team. He can't understand what makes this guy so special, but since the president made the offer, he tries to act fake and welcoming. He puts a hand on Si-Chen's shoulder to welcome him to the team, but Si-Chen immediately slaps his hand away. He bluntly states that he's not interested. Cheong-di and Gong Ting, they're stunned by the total rejection. Si-Chen tells them they're too loud and warns them never to bother him again as he walks away. This sends Cheong-di into a literal fire-breathing rage, while the other students gossip about how much guts it took to reject the student council president. They realize that with a C-rank assessment, Si-Chen must be aiming for first place on his own. Gong Ting keeps his cool, telling his team that it isn't a problem and that Si-Chen clearly has his own plans. Watching from the balcony, the headmaster is disappointed that the two didn't team up to set a new school record. Ling Yu, however, finds it much more interesting. She views the rejection as a declaration of war, noting that while Gong Ting was born with a silver spoon, he's definitely not a pushover. Back on the field, Gong Ting wonders if the assessment results were actually accurate. He vows that no matter what, he won't let anyone take the top spot from him. Chang-di tries to suck up to him, offering to teach Si-Chen a lesson, but Gong Ting shuts him down, acting like he's above being petty. Gong Ting tells the team to go to karaoke without him, but as he leaves, he tells Chang-di that whatever he decides to do has nothing to do with him. Chang-di catches the hint. The president is giving him a silent green light to attack. 10 minutes later, Chang-di's goons report that Si-Chen has left the campus to go home without even eating. Chang-di thinks the timing is perfect because off-campus anything goes. As Si-Chen walks through the city, he thinks back to the ruined future. In his past life, a top guild encountered a monster in the Holy Land that was stronger than anything they had ever seen. Wrath. The guild was completely wiped out, and Wrath descended to destroy the human world. To prevent this, Si-Chen needs to find that dungeon as soon as possible, but he needs a massive amount of money to start his plan. He heads to the Mithril Monster Exchange, the nation's largest resource hub. He approaches the counter and drops several monster fangs. The male clerk is dismissive, wondering how a student got these and calling them junk once he realizes they are E-rank Gravehelm fangs. He's more interested in VIP clients and hands the trash order off to a newbie clerk named Miss Lee. Si-Chen receives 18,000 for the fangs, which is enough to cover his rent for now. But then, he reaches into his inventory and pulls out a massive, glowing greatsword. He asks for an appraisal, and Miss Lee is completely stunned by the quality, guessing it's at least a B-rank or maybe even an A-rank weapon. The arrogant male clerk laughs at her, claiming A-rank gear is worth millions and that a broke student couldn't possibly have anything that valuable. Suddenly, a well-dressed man enters and corrects him. He explains that the gear isn't A-rank. It's an S-rank piece of equipment from the Abyssal Lands. The clerk's jaw drops in horror as the man approaches Si-Chen. He shakes his hand, stating they are honored by his patronage, and personally invites him to the VIP lounge. Si-Chen smiles, knowing his plan worked. He recognizes the man as King Zi, the leader of the Mithril Guild. Once they are seated in the lounge with the sword resting on the table, Qingji asks how much he intends to sell it for. The young man plainly asks for 1 million. Qingji is surprised. He explains that even A-rank weapons sell for millions, and this S-rank sword could easily fetch tens of millions on the open market. The young man clarifies that he doesn't want to sell it. He wants to use the S-rank weapon as collateral for a 1 million loan, promising to pay it back in exactly 1 month. Qingzi realizes the student has no intention of losing the sword and plans to use it for himself later. He wonders if the boy is a rich runaway or a hidden prodigy, but knows he isn't an ordinary student. The young man adds that he will repay the principal in a month and include a 10% interest payment the month after. Qingji asks the appraiser to step outside. He tells the young man that he knows he attends the National Awakener University, and their senior graduation exam is exactly 1 month away. The prize money for first place is exactly 1 million, which perfectly matches the loan repayment amount and date. Qingji guesses the young man is completely confident he will win first place. He also deduces that since the boy can't just wait a month for the prize money, He must be in desperate need of cash right now to risk putting up an S-rank item as collateral. Seeing an opportunity, King Ji makes a counteroffer. He offers to loan him 1.5 million in cash on the spot with 0 interest for 1 month. He extends his hand, asking the young man to consider this the start of a friendship between them. He promises to keep their discussions strictly confidential and asks that the young man bring any future trading needs to his exchange facility first. The young man is impressed that Qingzi figured out his exact situation with just a few details. Instead of taking advantage of his desperate need for cash, Qingzi offered better terms just to build a long-term partnership. It makes complete sense to him why Qingji eventually turns the Mithril Exchange into the world's premier exchange facility in the future. They shake hands to seal the deal. The young man knows that to eliminate Wrath, he can't rely solely on his own strength. He needs to start making trustworthy allies. The magic contract is completed, and 1.5 million is transferred into his account. King Ji asks what he plans to use for his upcoming graduation exam now that he used his weapon as collateral. He offers to lend him some high-rank equipment from the shop. The young man says there is no need. He reaches out and summons another identical S-rank greatsword. King Ji and his staff are completely speechless. Leaving the shop, he takes a taxi to the long-distance bus terminal. While waiting, he thinks back to his past life. His family struggled financially, and since he hadn't awakened after graduation, no guild would accept him. They barely scraped by on odd jobs to make rent. His younger sister, Si-Yun, even tore up her acceptance letter to her dream art school, just to avoid adding to their financial burden and to stay close to him. His thoughts are interrupted when Si-Young calls out to him, asking for help with her luggage. He stares at her, realizing it has been 7 years since he last saw her. He rushes over and wraps her in a tight hug. She complains that he is choking her and asks if he's acting weird because a girl rejected him. He takes her bag, and they start walking home as she talks about her bus ride. Looking at her, he silently vows that he won't let her suffer anymore this time around. Meanwhile, in an alleyway along their route, a group of armed thugs is lying in wait. Their leader, wearing a floral shirt and smoking a cigarette, confirms this is the path Si-Chan takes to get home. He orders his men to hide and jump him the moment he shows up, wanting to teach Si-Chan what happens when you mess with him. Their leader, a D-rank cloud assassin named Qiang-Di, holds a grudge. The young man previously told them to stop bothering him, and Qiang-Di wants to cripple him so he misses graduation. Unaware of the ambush, Si-Yu notices her brother acting weird and tries to cheer him up. They enter the alley, and the thugs prepare to jump them. The young man catches their scent immediately. He pulls out a pair of wireless earbuds, places them in Si-Yun's ears, and plays her favorite song, telling her it will help her understand his mental state. As she closes her eyes to the music, he steps forward, his eyes glowing. In his past life, he lost his last family member in the year 2160 and wasn't reborn until 2167. This is his first time seeing his sister in 7 years, and he is furious these thugs are ruining the moment. Lightning crackles around him as he launches forward. He smashes the first thug's face into a wall and snaps another's arm with a single punch. The thugs panic at his overwhelming strength. Qiang-Di screams that he's the strongest cloud assassin and lunges with his knife. The young man effortlessly dodges the blade and drives a lightning-laced punch straight into Qiang-Di's face. The leader is sent flying, crashing hard against the pavement. Standing over the bloody assassin, the young man glares down and asks what part of "never bother me again" he didn't understand. Looking down at the bleeding assassin, the young man reminds him that he clearly told them never to bother him again. He asks what part of that he didn't understand. Lying on the ground with broken ribs and numb legs, Qiang-Di finally realizes the student's rank assessment was real, and he's definitely not a D rank. Terrified and crying, he stammers a weak apology. The young man instantly grabs him by the collar and presses a knife against his throat, telling him to shut up. He threatens to kill him right there if he makes a single sound. Looking into his glowing red eyes, Qiang-Di knows he isn't bluffing. He feels the intense killing intent radiating from him, and wonders what kind of hell a simple student must have gone through to have an aura of pure death like that. The young man tells him to listen closely to his next words. He doesn't care if they all rot, but they are to never bother him again. He then warns them that if they ever try to harm his sister, or even appear in front of her, he will permanently make each of them disappear without a second thought. Pressing the blade just enough to draw a bit of blood, he asks if Qiang-Di understands. The terrified leader quickly nods. Satisfied, the young man drops the knife and walks away, leaving the thugs beaten in the alley as his sister's song continues playing. As Si-Yun listens to the song, tears start falling down her face. The lyrics are incredibly sad and lonely. She wonders what her brother has been through to relate to something like this, feeling like he has lived through a lot even though they've only been apart for a few days. She thinks about how she's always been by his side and wipes her tears, telling him he's taking his lonely joke a little too far. He suddenly hands her a red box. Inside is a golden pen. She immediately recognizes it as the latest magic holographic pen from Dragco, an item that costs over 10 grand. Completely shocked, she asks where he got the money for it. Watching her, he thinks back to his past life where he failed to protect her in her dreams. He silently vows to protect everything about her this time around. Si-Yu nervously suggests returning the pen, claiming it's way too expensive and that she doesn't even like it that much. But she chests it out anyway, drawing a glowing pink fish in the empty air. She is amazed that it actually works. He just smiles and tells her she can use it as long as she likes it. Later, they sit at home eating bowls of noodles. He praises her cooking, but Siyun brings up their living situation. She scolds him for throwing money away on a pen when they still need to pay rent. He casually replies that he already paid this year's rent in full. Siyun is stunned. He quickly makes up an excuse, saying he started a small business with a friend and made some good money. Siyun knows he's a terrible liar. She realizes he is being highly suspicious and is definitely keeping secrets from her now. But as she looks over at him, she sees his bright, genuine smile. She realizes it has been ages since she saw him look that happy. At a large aquarium, the university's director of career services, Gong Swan, talks to a student named Gong Ting. Gong Swan confirms that Si Chen is officially a C rank and is the only student in the school ranked higher than Gong Ting. He warns Gong Ting that his father invited the vice chairman of the alliance to watch the graduation exam, so he can't let anyone steal the spotlight. If things go wrong, Gong Swan suggests having Si Chen fill a vacancy on Gong Ting's team. Gong Ting refuses, calling Si Chen a deadbeat. Gong Swan points out that Si Chen recently beat Kang Di so badly that over 60% of his body was fractured and won't heal in time for the exam. Gong Ting still doesn't care. He believes Si Chen already showed his full abilities during the ranking assessment. He vows to show everyone who the strongest really is during the combat exam. At 11 p.m. in the men's dormitory, Si Chen takes a shower after finishing a 100-kilometer weighted run. With his money issues solved, he is ready to focus on his real plan after graduation. His next step is to win the 1 million prize money to pay back his loan from Chinji, knowing he will need him for future deals. Lying in bed, Si Chen notes he has less than a month before the exam and needs to level up a few more times. A loading bar appears in his vision, and the glutton system initiates. Walking up the steps of a massive red tower, he checks his system stats. His weakest class, Gravehound King, is officially assessed as a C rank. His strongest class, Abyssal Fiend, doesn't display a rank because its potential exceeds the system's maximum bounds. While it is an S-rank class, he can't use its full potential yet, and doesn't know exactly how much more power it holds. He also notes that the ranks of his 2 remaining classes are currently unknown. To test his limits, he pulls out an SSR-rank item called the Time Rift Key. The system describes it as the only key capable of unlocking the gates to the Tower of Darkness. He uses the key and the large stone doors rumble open, revealing a swirling purple portal. Wondering what is waiting for him inside, he steps through the vortex. As he arrives, he looks around in surprise, trying to make sense of his new surroundings. He steps out into the fallen star wastes and immediately drops to his knees. The surface gravity here is insanely high, roughly 10 times normal. The door behind him vanishes. To reopen it, he figures he has to kill the floor's boss. Right now, he can only use about 30% of his strength in this environment. A B-rank monster called the Phantom Lion appears. He quickly switches to his Lightning Assassin class and summons an electric blade. When the lion lunges, he tries to counter with a vital hit to paralyze it, but his attack misses completely. The extreme gravity makes his body feel incredibly heavy, severely impacting his speed and precision. The assassin class is virtually useless here. The lion easily tackles him to the ground. Realizing he needs a different approach to deal with the monster's strength, he switches classes again, this time to the Purgatory Rakshasa. As a warrior class, it gives him massive bonuses to his strength and stamina. Using his new stats, he effortlessly punches the lion off of him. He then activates his gravity manipulation skill, stacking gravity on his fist to the absolute max to increase his downward impact force. His power surges as the gravity multiplier climbs rapidly to 200, 400, and then 600%. With gravity stacked to 600%, his punch is amplified 60 times. He slams the Phantom Lion into the ground, destroying it. He catches his breath as the system awards him 12,000 XP, bringing him to level 11. Checking his stats, he notes that every star on a class card represents a stat multiplier. His Purgatory Rakshasa class has 11 stars, providing a higher overall amplification than his 9-star Lightning Assassin class. Still, it took everything he had just to beat a single B-rank monster, meaning neither class has broken past the B-rank limit yet. He then notices the system didn't give him a Devourer prompt for the lion, and the exit gate hasn't appeared. Looking up, a large black portal opens in the sky. Glowing eyes appear inside the void. He realizes the real 4 boss hasn't even shown up yet. Several more Phantom Lions jump out of the portal. The monster he just used all his strength to kill was just a basic mob. The lions lunge at him, slashing across his chest. As they attack, he finally understands the Purgatory Rakshasa's warning. The open door brings endless pain, but he has to endure and conquer it all. Suddenly, Si Chen gasps and sits up in bed, waking up from the simulation in a cold sweat. Si Chen wakes up in a cold sweat in his dorm room. The feeling of his muscles tearing and skin separating from the bone in the simulation felt completely real. He knows there are no shortcuts to getting stronger, and his arduous path through purgatory has just begun. Later that week, the students gather in the grand auditorium for the graduation combat assessment team formation. The students talk among themselves about the new rules. Since higher-ups from the Guild Alliance are coming to watch the exam live, Every team is now required to have at least 5 members, and at least one must be a high E rank or above. Gong Swan announces that everyone's rank information has been sent to their wristbands so they can start forming their teams. As the students check their holographic lists, they notice something wrong with Si Chen's stats. The system shows him as a low E rank. They are confused since he previously tested as a C rank, and they quickly assume his demon heart really was broken back then, causing his rank to drop. Seeing this, the other students immediately lose interest in teaming up with him, not wanting to carry a deadweight during such an important graduation exam. Gong Ting and his friends just laugh, mocking Si Chen for rejecting Gong Ting's team invitation earlier and assuming he must be regretting it now. Watching from the front desk, Gong Swan looks at his nephew. He thinks about how Gong Ting is just so disappointing, not knowing how to truly utilize power and human nature. He decides to teach his nephew a lesson by using his administrative authority to isolate Si Chen, making sure his opponents won't even have the qualifications to compete. Students are told to form teams for their upcoming graduation exam. Everyone rushes to join the student council president, Gong Ting, because being on his team practically guarantees a good career. Meanwhile, Si Chen and his roommates are struggling. To even enter the exam, they need a 5-person team with at least one high-tier E rank member. Currently, they only have 4 people. Si Chen's rank has been listed as low-tier E rank, putting him at the very bottom of the school. He knows the graduation scores based on performance in a monster dungeon where the number of enemies scales with team size. Having more teammates doesn't automatically mean a better score. Quality matters more. Si Chen suspects the director of career services, Gong Swan, tampered with his records. Gong Swan shares a name with the president and likely lowered Si Chen's rank so no one would want to team up with him. One of their roommates, Shang Zuo, is a mid-tier E rank. Another group tries to recruit him, calling the rest of the dorm trash. Shang Zuo refuses to abandon his friends, even if it means missing the exam. Si Chen realizes they're being targeted and decides to take matters into his own hands. A system notification appears, confirming a class change is complete. Awe surges through him as his appearance shifts. He decides to take advantage of the university's tradition that allows 1v1 challenges at any time. His plan is simple: defeat Gong Ting in front of everyone to prove his strength. Once he shows his true power, he expects high-ranking students will want to join his team. Just as he prepares to make his move, a girl enters the room. She achieved E rank back in middle school and asks to join their team, promising she won't be a burden. The girl, Ling Yu, wants to join Si Chen's team, but the director of career services, Gong Swan, tries to stop her. He claims that as an exchange student she's ineligible and lacks an official rank assessment. Just then, the principal arrives, surprising everyone with what looks like teleportation. Si Chen can't even see his or Ling Yu's ranks. The principal tells Ling Yu it's better if she stays out of this, but then starts talking about the school's duty to its students. Fearing the principal knows about his rule tampering, Gong Swan quickly changes his tune. He declares that any team can join, even if they have fewer than 5 members or low ranks. Si Chen's roommates are thrilled. They form their team and name Si Chen as the captain. The principal watches with interest, wondering how this underdog group will perform compared to Gong Ting's elite squad. As captains start picking dungeons, Si Chen doesn't hesitate. He submits his choice immediately, catching everyone off guard. The entire room erupts in shock. His roommates are in a complete panic, screaming at him to undo the selection. They can't believe he chose such a dangerous dungeon, but Si Chen just stares ahead, completely unfazed. The graduation battle examination marks the first time students form teams to enter a real dungeon. They earn credit by defeating mobs and monster wards. The scoring system is straightforward. 10 points for a full clear, 20 points for slaying the boss, and another 20 for finishing within an hour. Different dungeon ranks have different multipliers. An F-rank dungeon offers a max score of 75 points, while an E rank offers 100. The rewards are life-changing. Every member of the highest-scoring team gets an offer from the Imperial Guild. The class MVP is appointed to a management position within that guild and receives a prize of 1 million yuan. Historically, the highest score ever recorded was 90 points, set by a genius who now leads the Imperial Guild. In the lecture hall, students discuss their strategies. An E-rank dungeon is considered very tough, requiring at least 3 D-rank students to even stand a chance. Most expect Gong Ting's talented team to be the ones to challenge the all-time high record. Suddenly, a notification pings. A team has already submitted their choice. It's Si Chen's team, and they selected a D-rank dungeon. The room falls into a state of shock. No student has ever beaten a D-rank dungeon before. Si Chen's teammates are losing their minds, asking if he's gone crazy or just pressed the wrong button. Si Chen remains completely calm, simply stating that he has thought this through. Moments later, another notification sounds. Gong Ting's team has also selected a D-rank dungeon, deciding to match the challenge. The other students start whispering and laughing at Si Chen. They assume his team is just acting tough for attention because they're likely to finish in last place anyway. They predict the team will fall apart before the exam even starts. Si Chen's friend with the glasses is terrified but notices a powerful aura coming from Si Chen. He realizes Si Chen is no longer the person who used to lean on him for everything. Despite his fear, the friend hits the confirm button, promising to stick with Si Chen until the very end. The final teammate is frustrated and calls the situation psychotic, but he eventually gives in. He figures they are graduating soon anyway, so they might as well go all out. With everyone's confirmation, Si-Chen's team is officially locked into the D-rank dungeon. Si-Chen and his 3 roommates have officially formed their team, but the tension in the room is high. He apologizes to his friends for his reckless choice, admitting he picked the D-rank dungeon specifically to aim for the MVP title. The stakes are huge, because the class MVP gets a direct management position in the Imperial Guild and a 1 million yuan prize. Dan Ting is visibly rattled by the move, something Ling Yu knows has never happened before. The principal and Ling Yu discuss the extreme risk. While the D-rank dungeon offers a massive score multiplier, the difficulty is several times higher than what students usually handle. Ling Yu points out that even a C-rank awakener would find it impossible to solo. With only a month left, most teams are staying in the combat simulation rooms to practice their elemental abilities against digital monsters. Si-Chen decides to ignore the simulators entirely. Instead, he forces his roommates into a brutal physical training schedule, involving dodgeball, sprints, and shuttle runs. They complain that this isn't a triathlon, but Si-Chen explains his reasoning. Simulations are just theory. In a real dungeon, fear takes over, and instincts are what matter most. He is training their endurance and reaction speed, so they can survive when their powers aren't enough. He reminds his team that nobodies, like them, don't have the status or privilege to train in real dungeons like the elite students do. The graduation exam is their only chance to break through the social barrier and surpass those born into power. He is determined to fulfill his promise to them and get them into the Imperial Guild. Staring down the path ahead, Si-Chen tells his team they will absolutely win. The live stream of the examination is about to begin. A total of 184 students are participating, divided into 28 teams. The vast majority of them chose the safest route, with 23 teams selecting the F-rank dungeon. 3 teams decided on the E-rank dungeon, and only 2 teams were bold enough to pick the D-rank dungeon. Sigrid, the Secretary General of the Global Guild Federation, finds this concerning. She points out that D-rank dungeons are considered dangerous even for professional hunters and asks if the school properly warned the students. The Director of Career Services assures her that everything was explained beforehand. He mentions that most students are currently E-rank with little real-world experience, so sticking to an F-rank dungeon is usually the most sensible choice for them. Before the team can even process that they're still alive, Si-Chen moves. He doesn't give the monsters a chance to regroup for a second dive. In a literal flash of lightning, he intercepts the attackers mid-air. His roommates can barely keep track of what's happening. When the snow settles, they see 3 dead Wraithwind monkeys lying on the ground. Shang Zhu is completely stunned, realizing that Si-Chen just soloed 3 D-rank monsters in an instant. While the officials watching the livestream expect them to drop out any second, Si-Chen is already proving that he's on an entirely different level than his E-rank status suggests. Si-Chen tells his teammates that their current strength isn't enough to handle the monsters. He tells them to just focus on protecting themselves while he handles the rest. With a massive burst of lightning, he leaps into the fray. Ma Long and Sheng Yu realize that the training Si-Chen gave them earlier wasn't so they could help him fight, but simply so they could survive the encounter. Sheng Yu feels a bit frustrated. He used to be the boss of their dorm, but now he has to rely on Si-Chen just to make it to graduation. The monsters are flying monkey-like creatures with bat wings. Si-Chen moves through them like a blur, tearing them apart with yellow lightning strikes. To the onlookers, he doesn't look like a student at all. He fights like a battle-hardened warrior. Xiang Yu watches as Si-Chen leaves them further and further behind. Suddenly, another monster attacks from behind. Xiang Yu manages to block it with his glowing, heated fist. He tells Ma Long that they can't just be deadweights and rely entirely on Si-Chen. They realize this graduation assessment belongs to them as well. Xiang Yu uses a skill called Flora Chant, Vine Lock, sending out massive vines to trap a monster. The creature is too strong and breaks free instantly, but Ma Long follows up with Cloud Chant, Frost Breeze. The icy wind slows the monster down, allowing the 2 of them to finally coordinate an attack together. Ma Long and Shang Yu coordinate their powers, combining ice and plant magic into a combo skill that traps a ghost bat monkey in a frozen vine cage. They signal for Shang Zhou to finish it off. He charges forward, unleashing a nuclear mage burst flame bullet. The monster is incredibly tanky and survives the initial blast, forcing the other 2 to hold the line as they reach their absolute limits. Shang Zhou refuses to back down and pours everything into one final attack, the converged burst flame bullet. A massive explosion rocks the cave, and a system drone confirms the D-rank monster has been successfully killed. The trio collapses in exhaustion, celebrating their impossible victory. Si-Chen, who has already cleared the rest of the cave, walks over and offers them a casual good job. Watching the live feed, an examiner is left speechless, unable to comprehend how trash students with 0 experience can take down a monster of that level. In a separate room, high-ranking observers take notice. One man with purple hair watches Si-Chen intently, remarking on his excellent performance and noting that the boy looks exactly like an old acquaintance of his. The purple-haired man finally remembers Si-Chen's name, while the examiner excitedly points out that the other team in a D-rank dungeon is already halfway through. This team, led by a flame soldier named Gong Ting, is tearing through not just toadstools with professional-level coordination. Using combos like Withering Him and Astrofusion to group and weaken enemies, Gong Ting finishes them off with a searing fracture. One teammate admits that the Gong family likely rigged the exam since these are the exact monsters they train for. They confidently head toward the boss, feeling like champions. Back at Cloudwood Summit's peak, Si Chen's team reaches the top only to find the Monster Lord, a massive frost wraith ape. It's busy tearing into a smaller monster, and its red eyes immediately lock onto the intruders. The boys are terrified, convinced one slap from that thing will kill them 10 times over. The giant beast lets out a roar and charges straight at them. While his teammates scream and scramble away in a panic, Si Chen remains perfectly still. He waits for the monster to get within range before exploding with yellow lightning. In a blur of speed, he leaps up and delivers a devastating kick straight to the ape's face. The impact is so powerful it sends a massive shockwave through the air, instantly crushing the creature's skull. Ma Long is the only one left conscious, shivering uncontrollably on the ground. Behind him, Si Chen and Shan Yu have been completely encased in massive pillars of ice. He realizes that if he were in a cloud class with a natural resistance to cold, he would have been frozen solid along with them. Just as he's trying to catch his breath, a sinister laughter echoes through the area. A massive skeletal figure towers over him, radiating an aura of absolute frost. This is the true lord of the dungeon, a terrifying ice monarch with a glowing blue core and a frozen crown. It looks down at the helpless Ma Long, laughing as if it's found its next toy. Ma Long pours everything into his perfect origin skill, desperately trying to thaw Si Chen. The Lich King doesn't just stand there. It launches more ice attacks to finish him off, but Ma Long doesn't stop. He screams through the pain, refusing to let his teammates stay frozen. His persistence finally pays off. Deep inside the ice, Si Chen's eyes snap open, burning with a fierce golden light. The massive ice pillar shatters into a million pieces as Si Chen breaks free, instantly tapping into his full power. Before the Lich King can even react, Si Chen activates his Godspeed skill. He becomes a streak of lightning, moving so fast that the world seems to stand still. The Lich King can only watch in absolute shock as Si Chen closes the distance in a fraction of a second. Ma Long is in complete shock, realizing that Si Chen isn't just a lightning elemental assassin. He watches as a skeletal mask forms over Si Chen's face, realizing he's looking at a rare dual-class awakener. Si Chen apologizes to his team for misjudging the situation and putting them in danger. A class change. Notification appears as Si Chen's energy shifts from blue to a dark purple and pink. The transformation completes, revealing his new form, the Abyssal Fiend. Now sporting horns, glowing eyes, and wielding a massive jagged energy blade, Si Chen declares he's going to finish this immediately. He swings his weapon, letting out a powerful shockwave as he prepares to end the battle. If you didn't want to be killed by the sword of Si Chen, then please subscribe to our channel for more updates. Now, move to our story. Si Chen apologizes for misjudging the situation and putting the three of them in danger. A system window appears, loading a class change. He clenches his fist, declaring that the danger ends now. The system confirms your class change is complete, shifting him to a level 16 Abyssal Fiend. He summons a massive, glowing, jagged sword and says he will finish this right away. The guy in glasses watches in shock. Normally, Awakeners can only get one class. There is a 1 in 10 million chance for someone to awaken two, making them an extremely rare dual classer. There are less than 10 of them in the world, and every guild fights to recruit them. But as the glasses guy looks on, he realizes Si Chen doesn't just have two. He's seen him use lightning, then ice, and now this dark energy. Si Chen actually has 3 classes. System notifications pop up, showing Si Chen's strength and stamina maxing out. He charges forward and unleashes a heavy slash. The glasses guy feels the shockwave and notices the monster's crushing aura is completely suppressed under Si Chen's attack. The giant skeleton screams. Si Chen's system activates triple calamity overload mode. He strikes the monster and completely shatters its skull. Si Chen lands smoothly. The system gives him 5,000 experience points, leveling him up to 17. The boss drops an item called Frostbone Skewers. The glasses guy walks up, saying he should have known Si Chen could easily one-shot a C-rank monster lord. Then he suddenly remembers their other 2 teammates are still frozen. He asks Si Chen if he has the energy to defrost them, but then panics and runs off to check on Shang Zhuo and Shan Yu himself. While he runs off, a Devourer notification pops up over the shattered skull. Si Chen holds his hand out toward the remains and the system begins devouring it. The devouring process finishes and the system rewards Si Chen with a new class, the Frostbound Lich King, a Cloud Mage type. He realizes this is the first time he's gained a class outside of the Dream Realm. He also remembers that his Arctic Nova attack froze their recording Robocam earlier. That means the examiners watching didn't see him use multiple classes. Figuring they still have plenty of time to get a perfect score, he's suddenly interrupted by another system prompt. His Lightning Assassin class reaches 100%, and he levels up. He gains 1 star point that can be allocated to his stats, leaving him a bit surprised. Meanwhile, Team Gong Ting is struggling in a high-risk D-rank dungeon called Gloombind Grotto. They are fighting a dungeon lord, a giant man-eater plant. One teammate tries to hold the beast back with glowing purple chains while an archer shoots lightning arrows at it. The archer complains that the monster is too tanky and his attacks aren't doing any damage. The giant plant easily breaks free from the chains and swats the team away. Panicking, they realize they never faced anything this strong in training, and put all their hopes on Gong-ting. Gong-ting stands back while 3 of his teammates cast magic circles to buff him. Once his stamina, strength, and elemental power max out, he declares he has enough power. Covered in flames, he dashes at the monster and leaps high into the air. He brings his flaming sword down, telling the beast to split. Using his Flame Soldier class skill, Sorrow Blade Burst, he unleashes a massive fiery explosion that completely wipes out the boss. His teammates cheer, calling him a legend as the Robocam announces their successful clear. They finished the D-rank dungeon in just 35 minutes. Because they cleared it in under an hour with a 3x difficulty multiplier, they earn a perfect score of 150 points. The team celebrates setting a brand new school record, while Gong-ting calmly sheaths his sword. Back in the waiting room, a few guys assume anyone returning this early must be trash who forfeited, since even a basic F-rank dungeon takes at least an hour. Seeing Si-chen and his teammates resting nearby, the guy with the earring walks over to mock him. He laughs, saying they chickened out and couldn't even finish the assessment. Before he can say anything else, his group calls him back because the vice chairman has arrived. The vice chairman walks into the room clapping, praising the outstanding performance he just witnessed. The earring guy and his friend stand at attention, but they are stunned when the man walks right past them and stops directly in front of Si-chen. The vice chairman calls Si-chen remarkable for clearing a D-rank Devil's Cave in just 21 minutes. He points out that even fully fledged professional guild teams would struggle to get a time like that. Hearing this, the earring guy is completely dumbfounded that Si-chen's team actually beat a D-rank, let alone so fast. Behind Si-chen, his teammates just smile confidently at the reaction. Si-chen recognizes the man as Carl Cavendish, the vice chairman of the World Guild Alliance. Since he is arguably the second most powerful person in the world, Si-chen wonders why he is here. Carl confirms Si-chen's name and notes that his trip wasn't a waste of time after all. Almost as an afterthought, Carl turns back and casually mentions that the Gon family's young master also did well leading a team to clear a D-rank. He compliments Guildmaster Gong Lin for teaching his son right. Gong Lin politely accepts the praise, but his expression looks visibly tense. Carl notes that it's getting late and he should head back. Someone nearby tells the principal he really hit the jackpot this time to find a pair of prodigies rarely seen in a millennium. The principal clears his throat and steps forward to announce the results. Since there is a tie for a perfect score, he announces that both teams are tied for the championship. Everyone on both teams is eligible to join the Empire Guild. Si-chen's team erupts in cheers. The guys yell that they made it into the Empire Guild, hugging Si-chen and screaming that they are set for life right out of graduation. Meanwhile, Gong-ting just watches quietly. The principal then adds that Captains Gong-ting and Si-chen will both be granted core management positions within the Empire Guild, and they will split the 1 million MVP prize money equally. Gong-ting glares at Si-chen upon hearing this. Si-chen suddenly realizes that means he only gets 500,000. He promised to pay Qingji back 1 million within a month. He starts thinking he will have to find a way to earn another 500,000 as quickly as possible. Before he can figure it out, Gong-ting steps up and declares there can only be one champion. He points right at Si-chen and demands a one-on-one tiebreaker with him. The principal and the crowd are shocked by the challenge. The principal tries to talk Gong-ting down, saying the assessment is already over and a tie for first place is a perfect outcome. He also whispers that Si-chen would never agree to an extra match. But Si-chen immediately turns around and asks that if he wins, does he get to keep the entire 1 million? The principal practically chokes on his own spit. Gong-ting scowls and tells him if he can beat him, he can take it all. Carl Cavendish smiles, finding the situation very interesting, and noting that the performance hasn't ended just yet. The two face off, ready to fight for the top spot and the full prize. Qingzi is sitting in an opulent room, telling Si-chen he didn't expect him to completely shatter the record with a perfect score. He points out that Si-chen is all over the news, which proves his decision to loan him money was a wise one. He tells him he doesn't need to pay back the 1.5 million, calling it an angel investment. Si-chen firmly declines, saying a debt is a debt and he must repay it. Qingji looks slightly surprised but listens as Si-chen explains why he came. First, he asks for a 1-week extension on the repayment deadline. He explains that since the graduation assessment ended in a tie, he received 500,000 less than expected. He then mentions he will be having a one-on-one tiebreaker with Gong-ting in a week, in a wild devil's cave outside the school. Hearing this, Qingzi looks shocked. He asks if they are really going into a wild devil's cave, pointing out that neither of them has professional guild training and it's far too dangerous. Si-chen tells him not to worry. Once he wins the tiebreaker, he'll get the remaining 500,000 and will give Qingzi all the materials he gets from the cave as interest for the extension. Qingzi thinks to himself that Si-chen wasn't show any fear about the danger. Instead, he's only focused on his debt and interest. He takes a sip of water, noting that Si-chen truly is extraordinary. Then Si-chen mentions he has another, more important reason for coming today. At Qingshui Middle School, The final exams had just finished. A girl named Xiao Yun stretches and cheers that summer vacation is starting. She looks at her phone lock screen, which is a picture of her and Si Chen. She realizes today is his graduation assessment. 4 years ago, Si Chen showed her his admission letter to the National Awakener University. He was thrilled that they detected elemental potential in him. Xiao Yun asked if he would become an awakener just like their parents. He promised that he would join a top guild, make tons of money for them, and maybe even uncover the truth behind their parents' disappearance. She told him he was amazing and would definitely become a great awakener. But as time went on, Si Chen never awakened. He worked harder than anyone else after getting into the university, but in the end, he was the only one who failed. Xiao Yun thinks about how lonely he must have felt watching everyone else awaken while he didn't, but he never showed it to her. Her friend runs up to her, excitedly asking if she heard the news. She says the National Awakener University produced 2 genius graduates this year, who both led their teams to perfect scores. They even got praised by the vice chairman of the Guild Alliance. The friend says it's all over the news and then remembers that Xiao Yung's brother goes to that school. Xiao Yung looks down a bit sadly. Suddenly, a voice calls out to her. A guy with pink hair steps forward, saying good afternoon to Xiao Yung. Both girls look surprised to see him. The pink-haired guy invites Xiao Yung to a private penthouse room at 8 p.m. Xiao Yun ignores him, looking annoyed, and quickly walks away with her friend. He calls out, asking why she's walking so fast. In her mind, she's just thinking about how her brother's classmates are on the news for getting perfect scores, while he couldn't even awaken. Imagining him crying alone breaks her heart, so she decides to hurry home and cook a huge feast to cheer him up. That night at their apartment, Si Chen sits down to a table completely covered in food, including a massive hot pot. He's surprised and asks how she had time to make all this. As they eat, the evening news plays on the TV in the background, reporting on the university's graduation assessment. It mentions Vice Chairman Carl Cavendish visiting the scene. Su Chen just smiles and keeps eating his food. Xiao Yun watches him sadly, assuming he's just forcing himself to act tough to hide the pain of failing his assessment. Then the news anchor reports that the assessment ended in a highly rare dual champion outcome, with 2 geniuses leading their teams to perfect scores. The broadcast shows Carl Cavendish praising the students and specifically naming one of the team leaders, student Si Chen. Xiao Yun freezes, her eyes going wide in absolute shock as she realizes her brother is the one with the perfect score. Meanwhile, in a dark room, Gong Lin stands holding a bloody whip over his son. Gong Ting is battered, shirtless, and bleeding from several fresh cuts. His father scolds him, saying he set up the stage and invited the audience, yet Gong Ting still botched the performance. He didn't win, and instead lost to some no-name brat. Dong Lin tells his son that from now on, he doesn't get to make his own decisions. He has already arranged everything for the combat tiebreaker in a week. Since Gong Ting couldn't get it done himself, his father is going to do it for him, by any means necessary, declaring that first place can only belong to the Gon family. The news broadcasts a report about the National Awakener University combat exam. 2 students led their teams to a perfect score. Vice Chairman Cavendish is on TV praising the results and giving special recognition to one student in particular, Si Chan. Watching the broadcast, a girl with braided hair freezes. She turns to the guy and asks if the Si Chan they just mentioned is him. Casually eating his meal at the table, Si Chan simply says yes and asks what about it. His sister drops her spoon in shock. She starts crying tears of joy, completely stunned that her own flesh and blood actually managed to pull off a perfect score. Si Chan just stares back at her calmly. Meanwhile, Vice Chairman Cavendish is enjoying premium Wagyu beef at a high-end restaurant. He asks his subordinate, Kite, for her report. She slides a top-secret file labeled The Glutton across the table. She reports that for the past year, the target hasn't left a single footprint behind. Cavendish figures it might already know they are watching and tells her to eat. But Kite brings up one more thing. She mentions someone suspicious who recently crossed paths with the vice chairman. She notes that the speed at which this person's abilities are growing is way too off the charts to ignore. At the same time, Si Chan is standing in a starry, rocky landscape. He is currently a level 17 lightning assassin. For the past 2 weeks, he has been grinding on the first floor of Dreadspire, nearly wiping out every monster there. He is fully adapted to fighting in a 10 times gravity environment. After his graduation exam, his lightning assassin class earned 1 star. He figures out that repeatedly hammering the same class raises its proficiency. He currently has 4 different classes, and none of them have hit their ceiling yet. He drops the newly obtained star directly into his most critical stat, speed. His speed stat reaches 740, which should put him at the level of an A-rank assassin. Despite that massive boost, he looks up at a giant glowing purple lion resting on a cliff. Even with his current speed, he still can't land a single hit on the floor's overlord. 2 glowing panthers then growl and charge directly at him. Si Chan uses his lightning assassin skill, Felicity God, and dashes forward covered in lightning. He realizes the Lion King Overlord has a weird ability. Every time he finds an opening and goes in for a strike, the lion blinks out of existence. It reappears next to whichever lioness is the farthest from him. They constantly shift positions, but their formation never changes. 2 lionesses always stay at close range to keep him busy, while the other 2 hang back on standby. The Lion King always stays at maximum distance. Si-chan realizes it's an overlord that lets everyone else do the dirty work. He wonders what class the Lion King is. He charges in with a lightning strike, but the panther dodges. He swings again, but the beast blinks out and pops up right beside the lion. The second he stops moving, another lioness charges in to bait him into attacking. Their coordination is perfect. One attacks, vanishes, repositions, and then another attacks. It is an endless loop meant to grind him down. Bruised and out of breath, Si-chan realizes the Lion King is literally playing with him. Suddenly, he gets an idea. He jumps high into the air to dodge a panther. He asks himself why he's even trying to beat them at their own speed game. Realizing he doesn't need to play their speed game, Si-chan decides to switch tactics. If they won't meet him head-on, he'll just tear them apart from a distance. He switches his class to his Cloud Mage form, the Frostbone King. Mages might be glass cannons up close, but at range they own the entire battlefield. He rains down a massive barrage of ice specks, covering the area. The relentless area of effect attacks leave the beast with no room to dodge, forcing them right into his kill zone. Once they are grouped up, he drops a Frost-Blessed bomb. The massive icy explosion leaves them with no corner to hide in, freezing the Lion King and its minions completely solid. With his targets immobilized, Si-chan switches classes one more time to his Stellar Warrior form. He activates Triple Cataclysm in Crushing mode, and drops down with a massive energy blade, shattering the frozen beasts to pieces. He declares the fight on the first floor of the Dread Spire officially over. As the icy dust settles, the system announces his victory. He levels up to 24 and receives his loot, 4 Phantom Strahd bones and 1 Phantom Strahd heart. Just then, a glowing red system prompt appears over the monster's remains, stating that they can be devoured. He reaches out and absorbs its energy to find out its exact class. It turns out the boss was a Stellar Tamer. Its own stats were weak, which is why it hid behind its contracted beast the entire time. Si-chan reviews the class skills. The teleportation ability, Stellar Warp, is genuinely good. The Force Beast Contracting, Stellar Pact, is interesting but relies on intimidation, meaning he'll have to go in pretty hard to tame a beast. Subtly, the illusion fades. The starry landscape vanishes, revealing an absolute wasteland of sand and giant bones. This is what the first floor of the Dread Spire actually looks like. A fiery portal to the second floor opens up in the distance. As Si-chan walks toward it, he hears a faint growl. He looks inside a massive skeletic ribcage and finds a tiny white lion cub trapped in glowing purple chains. He realizes this little guy didn't vanish when the Lion King died, meaning it wasn't a contracted beast. The Phantomane Lion King must have locked it up here. Si-chan uses his lightning to shatter the chains, freeing the cub. He tells the little guy that this wasteland was its home, and gives it back its freedom. Knowing exactly what it feels like to be trapped, Si-chan tells the cub to stay alive and keep going. He turns around to head down to the next floor. Just then, a system notification buzzes. A beast contract request is incoming. Because the little lion initiated the request itself, the recruitment success rate is a guaranteed 100%. And it unlocks 2 new passive skills. The first passive allows Si-chan to boost the contracted beast stats, and any experience the beast earns is returned to him in equal measure. The second passive gives him access to the beast's live field of vision if it is ever in danger. Si-chan turns around in surprise. The little cub, identified by the system as Lion King Leo, is staring up at him, requesting to enter a contract. The system asks if he accepts. Si-chan looks down at the cub and asks if it really wants to come with him. The little lion eagerly nods with a small roar. Si-chan smiles and accepts the contract. The system confirms the contract is complete and activates his new passive skills. Si-chan smiles and Si-chan. With his new companion happily floating beside him, Si-chan tells Leo it's time to go. They walk toward the fiery portal leading to the second floor. Out of nowhere, a massive red slash tears straight through Si-chan's chest. Si-chan wakes up gasping for air in his own bed, drenched in sweat. He realizes he died right before entering the next floor, and wonders what that sudden red attack was. Still processing his sudden death, his stomach growls, and he decides he just needs some food. He sits at the table eating a bowl of ramen while his sister gets ready to leave for the day. She asks if he has his university interview today, complaining about how annoying the National Awakener University process is. Sumire confirms his interviews at 2 p.m. He pauses to look at a framed photo of the two of them. He thinks about how much she has supported him over the years and is glad he finally has the strength to support her back. He sits down with his tablet and notes that his current classes are capped at level 30. Si-chan looks at his tablet and sees a system message stating that his current classes are capped at level 30. He is surprised by the sudden restriction. Before he can think much about it, a dark purple portal opens right above him. The little white lion cub Leo drops directly into his lap. The cub immediately starts running around, tearing up the living room cushions and making a huge mess. Sumire checks his system again and reads the description for his second passive skill. It states that if his contracted beast is ever in danger, he gains access to its live field of vision, which explains the sudden teleportation. Si-chan remembers his sister loves cats and knows she is going to freak out when she sees the little guy. Ignoring the mess for now, he sighs and heads to the bathroom to take a shower. Meanwhile, in a dark location, a heavily bleeding man gasps for air. He begs his brother to save him, his eyes wide with terror as a red glow reflects in them. Suddenly, a sharp green blade slices through him, landing a critical hit. At the same time, Si-chan's sister is walking down the street, struggling with heavy grocery bags. She complains to herself about the weight and thinks about how they need a car soon. As she walks past a dark alleyway, she hears a strange noise. She stops and turns to look inside the shadows, calling out to see if someone fell in there. Instead of someone hurt, a guy steps out holding a massive bouquet of red roses. Jin Do-chin. He tells her she is finally here and calls her Xiao Yun, saying he has been waiting for her. Jin tells her she left school in a rush last time and completely missed his invitation for a date, trying to impress her. Xiao Yun just stands there in silence. Xiao Yun ignores the invitation and asks how he found out where she lives. Jin brags that his dad is the director of the first hospital, so pulling a few strings to track her down was easy. Unimpressed, Xiao Yun states they're from completely different worlds and tells him never to look for her again. As she walks away, Jin gets angry. He aggressively grabs her wrist and yells, demanding to know if she has any idea how much effort it took to rent out that floor, complaining that he even invited a bunch of friends and that her not showing up would be completely disrespecting him. Xiao Yun glares right back, asking why she owes him any respect. She bluntly tells him that staking out her home like this is incredibly creepy. That sets him off. His expression darkens with rage as he angrily asks who she thinks she is. He yells that he tries to be nice. Without hesitating, Xiao Yun pulls back and headbutts him directly in the face, smashing his nose and sending him reeling backward. With Jin on the ground clutching his bleeding face, Xiao Yun yells at him to go get his brain checked at his dad's hospital first. She turns her back on him and walks away, telling him to stop bothering her and complaining that he completely ruined her mood. When she finally gets back home to her apartment, she is immediately greeted by the little white lion cub Leo, who looks up at her excitedly with wide eyes. Xiao Yun immediately picks up the cub. She rubs her face against the little guy, completely obsessed, and asks Ash where he bought such an adorable magical beast. Ash casually tells her his name is Leo, and that she will be taking care of him from now on. Thrilled, Xiao Yun excitedly asks if she really gets to raise a little lion. Xiao Yun pets the purring cub and notices something unusual. She points out that Leo is tiny but already has a long mane, even though usually only adult male lions grow them. She quickly brushes it off, deciding she will just get a magical beast adoption lessons tomorrow to officially register him. Ash watches them with a smile. Seeing how fond his sister is of Leo, he is relieved knowing he won't have to worry about her safety at home anymore. Just then, Ash's phone dings with a notification. He picks it up and checks the screen. It's an email from the guild supervisory bureau. The message states that after a rigorous review, a submitted application has officially been approved. Reading the email, Ash smiles, knowing his plan can now proceed smoothly. With his plan in motion, his next goal is set. He just needs to win the tiebreaker 6 days from now. 6 days later, the day of the tiebreaker assessment arrives. Out in the outskirts of Greenlight Forest, an official gathers the two candidates to announce the details. The school board has decided that the test will take place inside the Wild Devil's Cave. According to their equipment surveys, the cave is classified as a D rank zone. The candidates stand ready in front of a glowing green portal located at the base of a massive tree. As agreed, Si-chin and his opponent will take the assessment together inside the same Devil's Cave. Since the inside of a wild cave is completely unknown, the risks are much higher than normal school tests. To handle this, 3 Senior Guild raid team members from the Dongshin Nation have been brought in as examiners. They will follow the two candidates into the cave to protect them and score their performance in real time. One of these examiners is Ivan, a C-rank floor chanter from the Empire Guild. The other 2 examiners are C-rank nuclear shooter from the Divine Eye Guild and Yuta Sato, a C-rank star warrior from the Yinfang Guild. The official reminds the candidates that their final results will be decided entirely by the scores these 3 give. Meanwhile, a man with sunglasses watches the group through a monitor from a remote room. He smirks, thinking to himself that the 3 examiners better do their jobs well and make sure everything is taken care of without leaving a single trace. Elsewhere, a subordinate asks the vice chairman why he is still in the Dongshin Nation when his itinerary ended 2 days ago. Watching Si-chin and Jin Duok-sin on the monitor, the vice chairman simply smiles. He explains that nothing could be more interesting than what is happening right now, noting that he hasn't witnessed a duel between geniuses in many years. Back at the cave entrance, the official raises his hand toward the glowing green portal and formally announces the start of the National Awakener University's class of 2157 graduation combat assessment. The one-on-one tiebreaker officially begins, pitting Si-chen against Gong Ting. The tiebreaker officially begins. Si-chen and Gong Ting step forward and walk straight into the glowing green portal. Si-chen passes through the bright light. Inside the cave, Si-chen and Gong Ting walk into an area filled with dead trees. The examiners step through the portal behind them. Looking around, one examiner notes that it looks like a flora-type devil's cave. The other two casually bicker when one offers a cigarette while they are supposed to be proctoring on camera. Suddenly, red static sparks across Si-chen's chest. He pauses as a red system alert flashes in front of him. The system issues a high-risk warning, stating that a high-risk monster has been detected. Si-chen realizes this is the first time his devil heart has ever issued a warning. The red warning screen flashes, labeling the threat as extremely high rank and highly dangerous. Si-chen notes that this is the very first time he's ever seen the Demon Corps send out a warning like this. Just as suddenly as it appeared, the alert completely vanishes. Looking at the twisted dead trees around them, he questions if there could really be high-rank monsters hiding inside a simple D-rank lair. With the warning gone, he and the other candidate continue walking down the path. As the two candidates walk deeper into the foggy terrain, the three examiners follow closely from a ridge above. One of the proctors notes how thick the fog is getting and reminds the others to keep a close eye on the students. Suddenly, the ground breaks open right in front of them. A large green insect monster emerges from the rocks. A system tag identifies it as a D-rank toxin cage ant, categorized as an AoE archer class. Without hesitating, Gong Ting draws his sword and dashes forward to attack the creature, leaving Si-chen standing in the background. Up on the ridge, the examiners watch the fight unfold. Yuta praises Gong Ting's lightning-fast reaction time, but Ivan reminds them that monsters in a wild lair are far tougher and more vicious than the ones they face in school assessment. The ant fires a barrage of corrosive poison shots at him. Gong Ting easily dodges the green projectiles, dashes in close, and slices the ant right through its poison sac with his glowing sword. Following up, he activates his core warrior skill, Blazing Blade Penetration. He drives his sword straight into the upper half of the ant, triggering a massive fiery explosion that completely destroys the monster. He lands smoothly back on the ground, his blade still burning, as the examiners look on from the cliff above. The examiners grade Gong Ting's performance. Caillou gives him 10 points for neutralizing the ambush instantly. Even gives another 10 for severing the venom organ. Yuta adds 10 more points for finishing the monster off without hesitation. They agree his calm execution is outstanding for a student. Meanwhile, Yuta looks over at Si-chen, who is just wandering around the area. He calls Si-chen's performance a complete fail since he didn't even react to the ambush. Watching a live feed, Vice Chairman Cavendish asks his assistant what he thinks Si-chen is doing. The assistant guesses he is looking for a way to get a high score in one single shot. Down in the cave, Si-chen stops and stares at a tangled knot of dead tree roots on the ground. Yellow lightning sparks around his hand as he notes that he finally found it. He slams his fist straight into the roots. A huge blast of lightning erupts from the earth, shooting deep underground. The electrical attack blows a whole hidden swarm of toxin cage ants right out of the dirt, electrocuting all of them at once. Watching from the cliff, Caillou panics. She thinks Si-chen is insane for going straight after a D-rank monster's nest and warns that he's putting everyone in danger. Gong Ting just stares in disbelief. Si-chen activates his Volt Assassin class and jumps into the air. Covered in yellow lightning, he quickly dashes between the flying ants, slicing through the entire swarm in seconds. He lands cleanly on the ground as dead insect parts and green blood rain down around him. The three examiners are left completely dumbfounded. Yuta asks what just happened. Caillou notes that Si-chen's file said he was only an E-rank awakener, making it impossible for him to easily kill so many D-rank monsters above his level. Sweating, Ivan and Yuta whisper to each other about how to even grade this. Ivan admits there is no way to give him a low score for wiping out the nest. Yuta nervously suggests they could just deduct points by claiming he was too reckless. Yuta adds that they could even say his moves were too repetitive. Watching Si-chen's insane display, Gong Ting grips his sword in frustration, realizing how far behind he is. Back at the office, Vice Chairman Cavendish and his associate watch the live broadcast. The bearded man laughs, praising Cavendish for knowing the kid was hiding his true strength. Cavendish just smiles, thrilled to get such an amazing head-to-head show right at the start of the exam. He wonders what Gong Ting will do next to answer back. Suddenly, the live feed glitches out with heavy static. The monitors, they turn blue, displaying a signal lost error, leaving Cavendish and his associate completely confused. Outside the lair, the tech official, he gets a warning on his terminal. The screen flashes a red signal anomaly alert. The communication signal drops to 0%, and the cave's risk level, it changes to an unknown question mark. Panicking, he yells out asking what's going on. Another official points at the cave in absolute shock. The glowing green portal entrance has completely vanished into thin air, trapping everyone inside. Peep within the cave, Si-chen, he stops as he notices eerie pink musical notes floating around him. The sound waves gather together in the dark to form a sinister, glowing face. Si-chen's eyes, they widen as he instantly recognizes the sound. It is the voice of Demon King Raph. Outside the dungeon, the officials are in a frenzy, as the cave entrance completely vanishes right before their eyes. The tech die reports that their equipment started throwing signal errors just before going dead. Realizing something went wrong, the official in charge swiftly orders his men to get command on the line. Back inside the cave, strange pink musical notes float through the air. Gong Ting and the examiners look around bewildered as they hear the bizarre music. Si-chen immediately recognizes the sound. It's the voice of Demon King Wrath. He wonders why Wrath is here, knowing the Demon King isn't supposed to appear for another 3 years. Suddenly, his demon heart system floods his vision with high danger warnings. Si-chen freezes, realizing something is standing right behind him. Heavy footsteps echo through the cave as a massive, shadowy figure slowly steps out from the twisted tree roots. The laughter and heady footsteps draw closer through the thick fog. Yuta and Caillou stare into the mist, sweating as a pair of glowing pink eyes emerge. A tall, humanoid insect monster steps out from the webs. It looks right at them and speaks, telling the humans they've walked right into its hands. Yuta's utterly shocked to hear the monster talk. He points out that any monster capable of forming words must be at least a high-tier C rank. He questions how something like this could even be inside a D-rank dungeon. Realizing a monster at this level will easily tear the students apart, Yuta summons a glowing pink axe and charges forward, ordering everyone to get behind him. Before he can even swing, the monster instantly moves right past him, slicing through his wrist. Yu's hand still gripping the axe is severed completely and flies into the air. Before the other examiners can even react, the monster dashes right past them and instantly appears in front of Gong Ting. It drives its bladed arm straight through his chest, telling him to die. Despite being impaled, Gong Ting grits his teeth and grabs the monster's arm. He raises his glowing sword and kicks the insect away to free himself. As the monster skids backward, Gong Ting turns to Si Chen, bleeding heavily from the hole in his chest. He declares that since the Overlord drew first blood on him, the kill belongs to him, under the rules of combat priority. He warns Si Chen not to interfere. Si Chen just watches him in silence. He activates his system vision to scan the insect, and a tag pops up revealing that the monster is actually a mid-tier C rank. The system tag over the monster updates, revealing it is actually a high-tier C rank. Caillou yells at Gong Ting that he needs immediate medical treatment. Yvonne rushes forward, strongly recommending they suspend the exam and pull out right now because the monster is completely out of his league. Gong Ting simply says no. His hand ignites with fire. Si Chen watches as Gong Ting presses his burning hand directly against his chest, using the raw heat of his own flames to cauterize the wound. Smoke rises from his flesh as he rejects the examiner's recommendation. He grips his sword, making it burst into flames, and yells that the fight won't end until one of them is down. The monster just stares back at him. Gong Ting leaps into the air, swinging his flaming sword down at the monster. Meanwhile, outside the cave, reinforcements have arrived. Silas Lin, the leader of the Imperial Guild's King Squad, stands in front of the vanished entrance. The monster resets the ward. Robert Brady, he explains that when a dungeon entrance disappears like this, it means there is genuine intelligence operating inside. The monster purposely opens the entrance to lure humans in, then snaps the trap shut. The panicked official asks if there is any way to force the door back open to save the people trapped inside. Silas tells him the only way to make the exit reappear is for someone on the inside to track down and kill the Overlord. The official tries to stay optimistic, assuming that a D-rank lair would only have a C-rank Overlord at worst. Silas quickly shuts that down. He explains that the initial D-rank reading was just a disguise the Overlord used to fake its power level. Based on the recent disappearances of Awakeners they've been investigating, he confirms that the cave they are looking at is actually an extraordinarily dangerous B-rank dungeon. Gong Ting and the monster clash rapidly, green energy blades striking repeatedly against his flaming sword. After a quick exchange, Gong Ting slides backward to dodge. The monster recklessly slams its massive sidearm into the earth, getting the blade stuck deep in the rocky ground. Seeing the monster's guard drop, Gong Ting seizes the opening. He leaps into the air and swings his burning sword down, cleanly decapitating the insect. The monster's severed head hits the ground and rolls away as its body collapses. Caillou watches in shock, amazed that he actually managed to take out the Overlord completely solo. Even Si Chen silently admits that Gong Ting's power is seriously nothing to laugh at. Nearby, Ivan uses green healing magic to stabilize Yuta's severed wrist. Yuta finally comes to, sweating and thanking Ivan for saving his life. But as he glances down at his smartwatch, he notices a giant red error screen. The signal is completely dead. He realizes they are now entirely cut off from the outside world. Caillou and the other examiners realize every single signal is dead. The compass is completely fried and the camera drones have dropped out of the sky. While Gong Ting stands there confused, the decapitated body of the insect monster suddenly twitches. Without a head, the creature leaps up and swings its scythe arm right at Gong Ting's back. Before the blade can hit him, yellow lightning flashes. Si Chen steps in and completely shreds the headless body into pieces, earning 2,000 experience points. Gong Ting stares in shock, asking how the thing was still moving after he chopped its head off. Si Chen tells everyone they need to get out of the dungeon right now before they get hypnotized next. Gong Ting asks how he could possibly know that. Yuta yells at Si Chen, calling him crazy. He insists there is only ever one C-rank Overlord in a dungeon, so the monster Gong Ting just fought had to be it. Suddenly, Si Chen's system flashes with multiple high-danger warnings. The strange pink musical notes swirl through the air and enter the ears of the three examiners. Their eyes immediately glow pink as the hypnosis takes over. Si Chen quickly puts an earplug in his ear and realizes he warned them too late. Si Chen recognizes the sound wave immediately. In his past life, Demon King Raph used this exact frequency to hypnotize and massacre millions of ordinary humans worldwide. He remembers the memory of holding his sister's lifeless body in the rain during that slaughter. Now, He watches the three examiners walk forward like mindless zombies. Seeing this, Si-Chen realizes the overlord of this dungeon must be directly connected to Wrath. The hypnotized examiners march blandly toward a massive web-covered cave deeper inside. Si-Chen follows right behind them, deciding that it's finally time to meet this monster face to face. Si-Chen follows the hypnotized examiners through the dark webbing into a massive underground chamber. His system immediately goes crazy, flooding his vision with high-danger creature warnings. The place is a giant nest, filled with glowing green eggs, rusted weapons, and piles of human skulls. At the center of it all, a white-haired figure sits surrounded by giant dark snakes. Si-Chen realizes the monster uses the exact same alpha sound frequency as Wrath for its hypnosis. Luckily, he had already prepared a counter-frequency beta audio track just in case he ever faced the Demon King again. The earpiece blocks out the mind control completely, but the examiners have no protection and could drop dead at any second. So he knows he needs to end this fast. Up on its throne, the white-haired figure senses them approaching. It speaks out in a creepy voice, admiring how rich and fresh their flesh smells. Si-Chen just glares back, completely unfazed and ready to make his move. 8-year-old Cole Gong stands panting, gripping a broken, bloody wooden stick. He just finished beating another boy his age to the ground. An older man watches them from a balcony and tells Cole that he wins again. The man announces that the winner gets to come up to the table and eat. Cole leaves the beaten boy behind and walks up the steps toward the lavish meal. The man orders the loser, 8-year-old Edmund Gon, to kneel on the ground until sunrise. Night falls, and Edmund stays kneeling alone in the dark, covered in bruises, with his empty stomach growling. Cole sneaks out and hands a loaf of bread to Edmund. Edmund whispers in a panic, warning his brother that if their dad catches him, he's going to get punished. Cole just tells him to shut it and eat. Suddenly, Cole gets smacked hard across the face. Inside, Cole is kneeling on the floor, shirtless and covered in fresh, bloody welts from a beating. His dad stands over him, gripping a cane. He asks Cole if he wants to know why the Gong family is in power today. He says it's because he has never lost a single time. He tells his son that winners make the rules, and losers just follow them. Simple as that. Cole looks up at his dad and asks if beating him means he gets to make the rules now. His dad just laughs. The next thing Cole knows, his sword is shattered on the floor. He falls to the ground coughing up blood, while Silas, the leader of the King Squad, stands over him holding an ice sword. Cole is furious. He yells at his dad, saying he challenged him to a one-on-one fight, and asking why he sent the King Squad after him instead. His dad simply explains that his true strength isn't just about what his own hands can do, but the power and authority he commands behind them. He tells Cole that the world doesn't play by the fair rules he thinks it does. In the end, there is only one absolute truth that matters. You just have to win. Cole's father continues his harsh lesson, telling him that it doesn't matter how he does it, only the outcome counts. He explains that as his son, Cole must always come in first, even if he has to throw away his family, his loyalty, and his dreams to do it. He drills it into the boy's head that winning is the absolute only reason he is alive. Young Cole takes these words to heart, accepting that winning is his only reason for living. Back in the present, the group stands in front of the massive nest. Si-Chen listens to the alpha sound frequency the monster uses to control them. Because he prepared a counter-frequency beta audio track beforehand, just in case he ever faced Wrath again, his earpiece blocks out the mind control completely. However, he looks at the hypnotized examiners and knows they have zero protection and could drop dead at any second. Realizing he needs to end this fast, he gets ready to move. Yellow lightning starts crackling around his hand. But just as he prepares to strike, someone suddenly grabs his wrist tightly, stopping him. Dong Ting suddenly grabs Si-Chen's wrist from behind, stopping his attack. Si-Chen turns around in surprise. Gong Ting is sweating heavily, gripping his own open chest wound tightly, to use the intense pain to fight off the mind control. He whispers to Si-Chen, saying he doesn't know how he slipped past the hypnosis, but he has his own way of keeping his head straight. He warns Si-Chen that if he makes a move right now and blows their cover, everyone in the room will die. He points out the hundreds of glowing green eggs scattered all over the nest. If anything sets them off, they won't just have to worry about the Overlord, they'll be dealing with dozens of C-rank monsters hatching and swarming them at once. He realizes the Overlord purposely dressed the place up as a weak D-rank dungeon, just to bait awakeners inside and bleed them dry. Dong Ting whispers that the monster will come to them. He suggests they stay hidden and ambush the Overlord together the second it gets close. Si-Chen admits he didn't expect Gong Ting to think that far ahead, but tells him the plan won't work. He explains that this Overlord doesn't even need to lift a finger to attack them, with just to say the first thing that we can do is to give the monster to the Overlord to explore the Kavanagh Fireman, and say we want to keep them in for a while. He says he has a senior person left and said we must fire on Love because of the unfair Kavanagh. Down below, the mind control takes full effect. Yuta holds his energy blade to his own neck. Caillou presses a revolver against her head, and Ivan starts choking himself. Si-Chen coats himself in yellow lightning and dashes forward. He strikes all three examiners in the back of the neck, knocking them out cold before they can kill themselves. Up on the throne, the white-haired Overlord notices the disruption. Seeing the unconscious humans on the ground, the monster realizes someone interfered, commenting that something was slipped into its food. Angered, the Overlord tells them all to die, and commands its minions to get them. All around the nest, the glowing green eggs burst open. Gong stands his ground against the swarm, his sword clashing against the mantis's sharp carapaces. He's exhausted and bleeding out, but he refuses to move. Just as he reaches his breaking point, Si-Chen walks back into the fray. He admits he misjudged Gon's character, but reveals a secret of his own. A system message appears, switching class, loading, and golden electricity begins to surge through the air. Si-Chen reveals his true power as a level 24 lightning assassin, standing side by side with Gong to tear through the monsters together. Si-Chen stands firm as golden lightning surges through his body. Gong, still clutching his chest wound, can't wrap his head around the situation. Even with Si-Chen's new power, Gong is convinced they're doomed. He tells Si-Chen flat out that they can't beat the thing standing in front of them. The Overlord is a nightmare. A massive figure shrouded in white with a piercing pink glow. Dong tries to gauge its strength, originally thinking it's B rank, but the overwhelming pressure tells him otherwise. This thing is easily an A rank monster, a tier far beyond their current level. Gong begs Si-Chen to just grab the others and run, thinking a tactical retreat is their only hope. But Si-Chen is looking for an exit. He notes that the dungeon gates are already locked tight. Si-Chen decides to take matters into his own hands. He stares down the A rank threat and calmly tells Gong that he's got this. Gong is reeling from the news that the gates are locked down. There is officially no way out. Si-Chen's eyes begin to glow a sharp blue as he locks onto the target. He realizes that if this overlord is truly sitting at A rank, its combat power is likely close to the Phantom Man Lion King found on the deepest floors of the Dreadspire. It's a monster they have no business fighting at their current level. Suddenly, a blade-armed mantis screeches and lunges from the side. Si-Chen reacts instantly, blocking the jagged blade with his bare arms as golden lightning sparks off the impact. The force of the strike creates a loud metallic clang. Dawn yells a warning for him to watch out, but Si-Chen remains perfectly calm, using his lightning to hold back the swarm. Despite their efforts, the swarm seems endless. Gon looks around at the growing number of monsters and starts to lose hope. He tells Si-Chen that they're going to be overwhelmed eventually. With this many monsters closing in, it's only a matter of time before they're finished. Si-Chen doesn't respond with words. Instead, he stands still and raises his hand, gathering a massive amount of crackling energy. He swings his arm in a sharp arc, and instead of a single strike, he releases multiple streaks of lightning that race across the battlefield. In one move, Si-Chen wipes out the entire front line of the swarm. Si-Chen triggers his lightning assassin skill, Flash God. The mantis' heads are shattered one after another by his precision strikes, their bodies falling before they can even react. Watching from the ground, Gong is in total disbelief. He knows that normally an assassin class has garbage-based strength, making them complete deadweight when surrounded by a swarm of high-level monsters. However, Si-Chen is defying the logic of his class. Every single one of his strikes lands perfectly on a vital point, dealing maximum damage with minimal effort. He is completely covering the massive power gap between himself and the A-rank monsters, using nothing but pure speed and flawless technique. He darts through the air like a bolt of lightning, carving a path through the creatures that were just moments away from killing them both. Gong can barely track Si-Chen's movements. He realizes the speed Si-Chen is moving at right now is easily A-rank level, if not higher. Seeing the tide of the battle turn, Gong finds his second wind. He grips his sword tight, his eyes glowing with renewed determination. He starts to believe that they might actually be able to pull this off and survive the dungeon. But the Overlord isn't finished. It senses the shift in momentum and tells them to quit yapping. A dark pink aura explodes from the monster as it activates its ultimate enhancement. System messages flood the air as the Overlord's stats skyrocket. Its strength and stamina are boosted multiple times over, making its massive form even more durable and lethal. The creature's power gap widens again, forcing Si-Chen and Gong to face an even more terrifying version of the A-rank nightmare. The Overlord isn't playing around anymore. It orders its remaining minions to chop Si-Chen to pieces immediately. Massive blade limbs slam into the ground with enough force to shatter the stone, but Si-Chen is already on the move. He dodges the heavy stripes and leaps into the air, using the momentum to position himself for a counterattack. Dong watches the exchange, struggling to stay upright with his injuries. He calls out to Si-Chen, telling him to hang in there as the swarm gets even more aggressive. Si-Chen remains focused, his eyes glowing as he dives back into the center of the fight. He moves like a blur, landing a flurry of lightning-charged strikes that tear through the monster's thick carapaces. Each blow lands with a heavy impact, shredding the enemies and clearing the space around them in seconds. Si-Chen continues to tear through the minions, but the battle is becoming a grind. He realizes that every single stat on these enhanced monsters is now pushing B rank. Their carapaces have hardened until they're like solid iron, making it nearly impossible for him to land a lethal blow. Even with his speed, he can't punch through to their vitals easily. He knows he needs to find a way to crack that armor open before he runs out of steam. Gong, seeing the opening Si-Chen created, calls out his thanks. He has been using the time to prepare his own final move. Gong's body ignites with a violent, fiery energy as he pushes his physical limits. Gong tells Si-Chen that he's bought him more than enough time, and now he's ready to unleash everything he has left to finish the fight. At 5:30 in the evening, Anizu arrives at a rental apartment, carrying a bag of groceries. She apologizes to her friend Eon for being late, explaining that her sewing project took longer than expected. Eon tells her it's fine, noting that her brother isn't even home yet. Anna is surprised he's still out, especially since Eon just passed her exams for the Academy of Fine Arts. Eon hasn't shared the news with him yet, though she told him she had a big announcement to make today. Assuming he is just running late, they decide to start dinner without him. While checking their supplies, Eon realizes they are completely out of garlic sauce. She tells Anna to wait there while she and her small companion, Mia, head out to the store. Eon plans to grab some snacks as well, determined to celebrate her big achievement properly once they're all back. Eon finishes up her quick shopping trip at Jay's store. She hides Mia inside her jacket to keep the little creature out of sight. Mia is perfectly behaved and stays quiet the whole time. Happily munching, Onia is proud of her for being such a good companion, and promises her a real dinner once they get home. As she starts heading back, she has no idea she's being followed. From a dark alley nearby, a group of shady men watch her every move. One of them holds up a photo of Eon, confirming that she's the one they've been looking for. He checks with his partner, asking if they should move in on her right now. One of the men tells his partner to wait, wanting to find a spot where there won't be any witnesses. Eon continues walking down the sidewalk, but she quickly realizes that the same group of men has been following her for several blocks. Inside her jacket, Mia senses the danger immediately, her eyes narrowing as she prepares for a fight. Eon tries to keep her composure, but she knows she's being targeted. She looks for a way out, deciding that leading them toward a more crowded area is her best chance of shaking them off. Si-Chen is struggling to stay ahead as the monster's stats push into B-rank territory. Their shells have hardened like solid iron, making it nearly impossible for him to reach their vitals with his current output. He realizes he needs a way to crack their armor before he runs out of energy entirely. Seeing an opening, Gong calls out to thank Si-Chen. He has been gathering power this whole time and is finally ready to move. Gon's body erupts in a massive pillar of fire as he activates a high-risk technique. System notifications show his strength stats skyrocketing while his stamina, speed, and luck all drop to dangerous levels. It is a complete glass cannon trade-off. Gon tells Si-Chen that the time he bought was just enough to get this ready. Si-Chen watches in silence, surprised by the sheer amount of energy Gong is putting on the line for this one strike. Gong lets out a roar, putting everything he has left into his final attack. He shouts that this is his ultimate move, a strike meant to rival an overlord. He triggers his Furious Fighter skill, Extreme Flare R-11. A massive arc of intense fire sweeps across the battlefield, instantly turning the swarming monsters into charred remains. The heat is overwhelming, as the flames converge into a single devastating beam. Gong directs the entire blast straight at the white-shrouded boss. The impact creates a massive explosion that echoes through the dungeon, engulfing the Overlord in a blinding pillar of fire. The fireball explodes with a deafening boom, lighting up the entire area. Once the smoke starts to clear, Gong collapses to one knee, his body trembling from the strain. He's barely conscious, using his sword as a crutch just to stay upright. Red system messages flash across his vision, warning him that his stamina, mental control, and elemental control are all completely depleted. He's given everything he has to that one strike. Looking toward the blast, he lets out a ragged breath and mutters that it's finally over. Smoke drifts across the battlefield as Gong tries to catch his breath. He is convinced the fight is finally over, but a faint pink glow suddenly appears in the middle of the destruction. A system message remains silent as the Overlord speaks from the shadows. It admits the attack wasn't bad, but it isn't dead. A massive silhouette with giant snake-like tentacles rises from the frames, looking completely unharmed. Gong's face turns pale and his heart pounds against his chest. He can't believe his ultimate move didn't even leave a scratch. The Overlord stares them down with a glowing pink eye and asks if they really thought that blast would be enough to kill it. Si-Chen watches the monster closely, realizing the power gap is even wider than he first thought. The Overlord is just getting started, and they are now facing a threat that is far beyond a standard A-rank monster. Gong, completely out of strength, leans on his sword, panting heavily. He realizes he has nothing left to give. He's done his part, and tells Si-Chen that the rest is up to him. As Si-Chen steps forward, the golden lightning around him vanishes, replaced by a surging, dark pink energy. Gong is shocked by the sudden change, wondering what kind of power he's witnessing. It feels entirely different from a standard Awakener skill. Si-Chen's eyes glow with a new intensity as he manifests a massive blade made of that same dark energy. A system notification appears, confirming his status as a level 24 lightning assassin, but he's now tapping into a specific hidden ability. The system identifies the move as Ossuary Collapse. This skill allows him to pull power from the remains of the dead in the vicinity. As the skill activates, the monster corpses and skeletons scattered across the dungeon floor begin to glow with a matching pink light. Their energy is absorbed directly into Si-Chen, causing his power levels to spike. He stands enveloped in a violent aura, ready to confront the Overlord. Gon watches in total silence, realizing that Si-Chen has been hiding a level of power that defies the logic of his class. A massive explosion of pink energy rocks the dungeon floor as Si-Chen's transformation completes. System windows flash repeatedly, showing his strength and stamina climbing higher and higher with every second. Dawn can only watch from the ground, frozen in shock as the sheer pressure from Si-Chen's aura fills the room. Even the Overlord seems to pause, staring at the new threat emerging from the light. Si-Chen catches his breath, a sharp, confident grin spreading across his face. He looks completely different, with dark energy horns crowning his head and his eyes glowing a piercing blue. His stats finally hit their limit, flashing stamina max and strength max in bright letters. He stares the Overlord down and repeats what he said before. This monster is his to deal with, and he's finally got the power to back it up. Si-Chen stares at the boss with intense red eyes, looking completely unfazed. The Overlord responds by gathering its energy and unleashing a massive mental attack called Midra. A giant sphere of green and pink energy erupts and washes over the entire battlefield. Gong is instantly hit by the wave of mental pressure. He collapses, clutching his head in agony as the hypnosis takes hold again. He groans in frustration, cursing that the boss is a cop of mental. While Gong struggles to keep his sanity, Si-Chen stands his ground, his dark aura flickering. The Overlord is genuinely confused because its hypnosis isn't having any effect on him at all. Gon is barely holding on to his consciousness, wondering how Si-Chen is even able to walk through the pressure. Si-Chen just keeps moving forward, his footsteps echoing as he rests his massive jagged blade on the shoulder. He has completely ignored the Overlord's most powerful mental spell. It's clear that in this state, Si-Chen is far beyond the reach of the monster's tricks. He begins to gather his energy, preparing a final move to end the fight. Realizing mental tricks are useless, the Overlord switches to pure destruction. It unleashes a massive energy attack called the Avicii waveform. A giant sphere of dark pink power erupts from Monster, sending violent shockwaves across the entire dungeon. The ground tears apart as the energy ripples through the area. Si-Chen stands right in the middle of the blast, completely unfazed. Gong, however, is at his absolute limit. He's already drained of energy and can barely hold on as the red aura crushes him. He groans in pain, clutching his sword just to keep from being blown away. As the Overlord's attack reaches its peak, a blinding, multicolored light begins to gather around Si-Chen. He's done waiting, and is finally ready to finish this clash. The Overlord's eyes flare with light as it tries to comprehend how Si-Chen is walking through its ultimate attack, completely unharmed. It's in a total panic, screaming that this should be impossible. Terrified, it commands its massive snakehead tentacles to lunge forward, ordering them to bite and tear Si-Chen into pieces right now. One giant head strikes from the shadows, but Si-Chen is already in a low stance. He grips his jagged blade with both hands, focusing his dark energy into a single point. The first snakehead lunges, and Si-Chen cleaves straight through its neck in a single motion. Blood sprays across the cavern as the severed head hits the dirt. The Overlord doesn't stop, sending more heads screaming toward him. Si-Chen moves in a blur of dark energy, his blue tattoos lighting up as he maneuvers around the incoming strikes. He's completely outclassed the monster's speed. He continues to dodge and weave, shredding through the remaining tentacles as he closes the distance to the Overlord for the final blow. Si-Chen doesn't slow down for a second. He leaps into the air and slices through another one of the Overlord's snake tentacles. The monster watches from inside its protective barrier, telling Si-Chen to hold on to that strength as long as he can. He floats in the air, pulling a massive storm of dark and blue energy from the monster corpses scattered across the floor. A system message identifies the skill as Star Warrior. 100 skeletons return to void. It drains the physical strength of the dead and converts it into raw power for Si-Chen. His physical strength hits the absolute max. Si-Chen delivers the strike. A concentrated beam of pink energy hits the green shield and shatters it like glass. The Overlord is frozen in disbelief as its primary defense is whipped out. From the ground, Gong is shocked that a single attack destroyed an A-rank barrier. He's starting to wonder who Si-Chen really is. Si-Chen doesn't give the boss a chance to recover. He charges his fist with a sphere of blue energy, triggering another skill, Star Warrior, triple gravity mode, maximum wake. The air becomes heavy enough to crush stone. Si-Chen dives from the sky and hammers the Overlord into the dirt. The impact creates a massive crater and a cloud of debris, burying the boss under the weight of the final blow. The dust settles, revealing the Overlord crushed at the bottom of a massive crater. Its body is a broken mess, and it can barely whisper, muttering that its defeat is impossible. Si-Chen stands at the edge of the pit, looking down at the dying monster with a cold expression. He demands the creature speak, asking what kind of connection it has to a being called Wrath. The Overlord's single glowing eye widens in terror. It asks how a human could possibly know that name. Si-Chen leans in and orders it to answer. The Overlord taunts him, admitting that if it actually knew where Lord Wrath was, it wouldn't be wasting time in a dungeon like this. Its only mission would be to break the seal and free its master. This information stops Si-Chen in his tracks. He repeats the words, "break the seal," under his breath, genuinely shocked to learn that someone was actually capable of sealing Wrath away. The Overlord begins to laugh maniacally as its remains start to dissolve into green flames. The monster continues to laugh even as it fades, telling Si-Chen to just wait. It promises that Lord Wrath will eventually return, leading a massive demon army to slaughter every human in existence, leaving nothing but bone behind. With one final laugh, the Overlord's presence completely vanishes, leaving only a small spark of light. Si-Chen stands alone, watching the last bit of the monster disappear into the air. Si-Chen reaches out and catches the glowing spark of energy. A system loading bar appears as he begins to devour the monster's core. Once the process is finished, a detailed monster card pops up on his screen, showing the Overlord's star ratings for speed and mana, along with the specific skills he faced. His hand glows as the absorption completes, and a final system notification appears confirming that he is officially leveled up. Si-Chen reaches level 25, and a victory scream shows he received 3 rare monster organs as a reward. He stands in the crater, staring at the Overlord's card, while thinking about what the monster said. He realizes that Wrath didn't just appear recently. He has been in this world for a long time, but someone is powerful enough to seal him away. Si-Chen knows there is a part of the past he still doesn't understand. Nearby, Dong is struggling to stay on his feet. He admits he never expected to see someone capable of using 2 classes, and acknowledges that Si-Chen is on a completely different level. Gon concedes the fight and promises to take everything he saw in the dungeon to his grave. The internal damage is too much, and Gon collapses back. Si-Chen tells him to hold on just a little longer, noting that with the boss dead, the dungeon gates should be open for the guild to break through. Suddenly, Si-Chen's eyes flare pink as he senses a new presence. A man in a suit appears from the shadows, surrounded by a thick purple aura and dark tentacles. Si-Chen recognizes him as Xiao Yun, but the man has transformed into a monster. His face is skeletal, his eyes glow green, and a long, jagged tongue hangs from his mouth. A new nightmare has arrived, just as the guild was supposed to rescue them. At the same time, Eon finds herself in a dangerous situation. She's been walking for several blocks and realizes that a group of shady men has been tailing her since she left the store. She doesn't know who they are or what they want, but it's clear they are targeting her. Her small companion Leo senses the threat as well, his eyes narrowing as he prepares to react. Eon tells him to stay hidden inside her jacket and not to come out yet. She tries to keep her cool, thinking that this night is about to get a lot more interesting than she planned. She remembers the first rule for when you realize you're being followed: head straight for a crowded area. Luckily, it's early evening and the nearby restaurant district is packed with people. Eon picks up her pace and dives into the thick of the crowd, using the sea of commuters to shield herself. Behind her, the thugs are struggling to keep up. They grow frustrated, pushing through the pedestrians and yelling at people to get out of their way. Eon keeps moving, blending in perfectly with the flow of the crowd. She waits for the exact moment when her pursuers lose sight of her for a split second. As soon as that window opens, she makes her move to disappear completely. By the time the thugs push through the last group of people, Eon has vanished into thin air, leaving them searching the street in confusion. The thugs are furious. One of them screams, wondering where she went, realizing they've completely lost her in the crowd. Eon ducks into a quiet back area filled with machinery and pipes. She catches her breath, feeling relieved that she managed to escape them. Her relief is cut short when she hears a voice. A man with white hair is leaning against a railing, smoking a cigarette. He complains about waiting so long and tells her the door behind her is locked anyway. Eon is terrified. She demands to know who they are and how they managed to find her hiding spot. The white-haired man just smirks, calling her a clever little chick for being such a good runner. Behind her, the other 2 thugs catch up, laughing as they finally corner her in the alley. Eon tries to bolt, but before she can even take a step, her foot is encased in a sudden block of ice. The impact makes her trip and slam face first into the pavement, her groceries spilling everywhere. The man stands over her, his hand glowing with blue frost magic. He mocks her, asking if she's finally out of energy. He tells her to just stay down and take a breath, making it clear she has nowhere left to run. One of the thugs moves in on Eon, laughing and looking disgusting. He reaches out for her, and she screams in terror. Before he can touch her, a massive burst of pink energy slams into his face. The force sends him tumbling backward across the alley, leaving even the boss caught off guard by the sudden intervention. A giant paw slams into the ground, cracking the pavement. Standing protectively in front of Eon is a massive white lion, radiating a violent purple aura. Eon stares in disbelief, finally realizing that this beast is actually her companion, Leo. The injured thug screams while clutching his mangled face. He yells at his partners, complaining that the man who hired them didn't say anything about a giant monster protecting the girl. Leo lets out a thunderous roar that shakes the surrounding buildings. One of the thugs refuses to back down and charges forward with his fists glowing with yellow energy. Just as the clash is about to happen, the purple flames vanish. Leo instantly shrinks back down into his tiny fluffy form. He spins around, looking completely dizzy and exhausted, before collapsing onto the ground. Eon calls out his name, stunned by how quickly his transformation ran out of power. Eon picks up the tiny, exhausted Leo, asking if he's alright. Xiao Yun isn't impressed by the lime's short transformation, noting it didn't even last 10 seconds. He begins to walk toward Eon as dark, thorny tentacles sprout from his glowing green arm. The vines surround Eon, pinning her in place. Xiao Yun tells her not to waste any more of his time. He looks her in the eyes and gives her a final ultimatum. Either she takes off the artifact herself, or he'll do it for her. Just as things look hopeless, a pink eye flashes in the air. A system message for a beast trainer class appears, activating a skill called Beast Bond, Astral Path. Si Chen suddenly teleports into the alley in a burst of pink light. He delivers a massive strike straight to Xiao Yun's face, sending the leader crashing through a nearby wall. The impact is so powerful, it completely levels the brick structure and sends the other thugs stumbling back. Si Chen turns to Eon and apologizes for the delay, saying he got held up by something and it took longer than he thought it would. Si Chen stands firmly in front of Eon, his presence completely shifting the energy in the alley. Eon is still shaking, calling out to him, wondering how those thugs managed to track her every move. She warns him that these aren't normal criminals. They're all awakeners with dangerous powers. Si Chen doesn't look worried at all. He tells her to take a deep breath and stay calm. He gives her a reassuring look, promising that everything is under control now that he's arrived. Xiao Yun isn't staying down for long. He claws his way out of the broken wall, his face twisted in rage. He's disgusted with himself for letting a brat catch him off guard. His green vein mutation flares up, and thick thorny vines wrap around his arms and torso. He tells Si Chen that he just signed his own death warrant. He plans to take both of their heads back to the man who hired him and extort the guy for triple the original fee. Si Chen ignores the monologue and tells Eon to stay behind him and stay out of the way. He clenches his fist, his eyes turning a sharp, predatory red. He looks back at the thugs with a cold, focused stare and tells Eon that this won't take long at all. He's ready to settle the score right here. Years ago, Si Chen was already being targeted by punks. A group of bullies led by an orange-haired kid has him pinned to the ground, kicking him while he refuses to fight back. He's taking the hit because they promised to leave his sister, Eon, alone. When Eon shows up with a metal pipe to defend him, the leader just mocks her and calls her a parasite. Si Chen begs them to keep their word, but the leader admits he was lying about the deal. That's when Si Chen snaps. He grabs a brick and smashes it into the face of the guy holding him down. He stands up with a cold rage, demanding to know how the leader dared to break their promise. After the bullies are handled, he tells Eon not to worry. Back in the present, Si Chen stands between Eon and the three Awakener thugs. Eon is worried because all three are powered up, but Si Chen tells her to stay behind him. He promises this won't take long. One thug with lightning powers charges in, calling him a pretty boy and telling him to do something. Si Chen doesn't hesitate, landing a punch that sends the guy flying into the distance. Eon is stunned by the sheer power. Just then, the thug with the injured eye leaps from the roof, attempting a surprise attack from above. Si Chen stays focused, ready for the next one to step up. The second thug leaps in with a glowing blue dagger, but Si Chen is already a step ahead. He catches the guy's wrist midair and stops the attack effortlessly. Before the thug can react, Si Chen delivers a brutal kick to the face that sends him crashing straight into the dumpster. With two of his men down, Xiao Yun loses his cool. He manipulates thick thorny vines and mocks Si Chen for being nothing more than a skinny kid in a school uniform. He threatens to turn him into a human pincushion, but Si Chen's red eyes stay fixed on the target. As the vines lunge forward, Si Chen moves with perfect precision. He dodges and spins through the gaps in the thorns, closing the distance in a heartbeat. He leaps high over the trap, leaving Xiao Yun completely terrified. The leader screams that this level of movement is impossible. Watching the fight, Eon is reminded of the truth about her brother. He didn't just graduate, he was the top student who crushed every single opponent during his final practical exams. Si Chen lunges at Xiao Yun and lands a crushing punch directly to his face. The impact is devastating, spraying blood and shattering the leader's jaw. Eon watches in awe, realizing her brother isn't just a normal awakener. He is at a level far beyond everyone else. Xiao Yun's body is launched high into the air from the force of the strike, before he eventually slams into the ground, completely broken. The other two thugs are also out for the count, one slumped against a dumpster and the other bloodied on the pavement. The entire fight ended in seconds. Si Chen turns to Eon and tells her to take Leo and head home first. He calls the thugs clowns and says he will take them to the police station himself before meeting her back at the apartment. Eon agrees and heads off while clutching her pet. Later that night, Xiao Yun is shown bloodied and barely conscious, realizing too late that the skinny kid he tried to extort was a monster in disguise. The thugs wake up tied to a pillar, terrified and confused about how they got there. Their heads feel like they're splitting apart from the earlier beating. Si Chen isn't interested in their whining. He asks if they belong to the Black Mountain Guild. He knows their type don't move unless there's money involved, so he demands to know exactly who hired him to target his sister. Xiao Yun, despite being bloodied and broken, tries to stay tough. He knows that in his line of work, snitching means he can never show his face in the industry again. He refuses to say a word. Si Chen realizes that talking nicely is a waste of time. It looks like he'll have to use the hard way. He closes his eyes as a system message appears. Loading. switching class. A dark, jagged aura begins to swirl around him, reflecting the power he just devoured from the dungeon boss. The class switch finishes instantly. Si-Chen is now a level 25 soul mage. He's draped in a long, tattered cloak of dark energy, looking completely different from the lightning assassin he was moments ago. The system displays a detailed profile of his new form. His stats are overwhelming, with strength, speed, and soul power all maxed out at 5 stars. He now has full access to the Overlord's devastating moveset. He can use Nidra to crush a person's mind, the Avicii waveform for pure destruction, and the spirit-gathering barrier to drain power from his enemies. Now that Si-Chen can manipulate souls directly, Xiao Yun's silence doesn't matter anymore. The interrogation is about to become a literal nightmare. The process completes, and Si-Chen is now a level 25 soul mage. He's draped in a long, tattered cloak of dark energy. The system displays the monster card for the soul mage, showing maxed out stats in strength, speed, and soul power. His eyes flare with a bright pink light as he activates the skill Nidra. Xiao Yun's eyes turn pink as the mental hypnosis takes hold. Thorny vines sprout from the ground and wrap around the thug's body. Si-Chen decides to start with the legs. One of the dark vines pierces through Xiao Yun's thigh, drawing a spray of blood. Si-Chen stares at him with cold red eyes and says they'll move on to the hands next. He's no longer asking for information, he's taking it by force. Si-Chen doesn't stop. He drives a dark vine straight through the center of Xiao Yun's hand. He tells the leader that this is exactly what happens when someone lays a hand on Eon. The other thug watches in total horror, screaming and asking what Si-Chen is doing to his boss. Si-Chen's pink eyes lock onto the second man, letting him know his turn is coming up next. The thug cracks instantly, wailing and begging Si-Chen to stop. He promises to tell him everything he wants to know. He reveals that the client is the son of the director of the first hospital. His name is Jin To-sin. The scene shifts back to 5 p.m. that same evening. At a luxury rooftop pool party on top of the Jue Feng building, Jim To-sin is lounging with a drink and several women. His friends walk over and start poking fun at him. They ask if the rumors are true, that he actually got rejected twice by the same girl. They laugh about the most popular guy in school being unable to get a simple high school student. They wonder what happened to the legendary heartthrob. Jin smiles for his friends, but his internal thoughts are filled with rage. He's humiliated that he was made to look like an idiot twice in a row in front of everyone. He stares at his drink with a cold expression, swearing that by the end of the night, she's going to regret every second. Jin To-sin is fed up with the noise and heads toward the restroom. He tells the people around him to stop following and that he's just going to use the bathroom. He stands at the urinal, letting out a long sigh as he tries to shake off the humiliation from earlier. While he's there, the lights overhead begin to flicker and buzz. He grows even more irritable, cursing the shitty lighting and feeling like everything is working against him tonight. He turns around to leave but freezes in place. Si-Chen has appeared silently right behind him in the dimly lit room, enveloped in a dark aura and with his eyes glowing a sharp, predatory red. Si-Chen stares him down. He asks point blank if he is Jin To-sin. The hunter has finally tracked down the man responsible for the hit on his sister, and Jin is now cornered with nowhere to run. In the security room of the Jofen building, 2 guards are taking a break. They complain about how the rich kids on the top floor have rented out the entire level again, acting like they own the place. It's no surprise to them that all the security cameras in that area have been manually turned off. One guard sighs, frustrated that some people have enough money and power to just ignore the rules whenever they want. The older guard leans in and tells his partner the real reason the cameras are dark. He's heard rumors that the women at these parties aren't there because they want to be. Many are tricked, lured in under false pretenses, and then trapped. He mentions a horrific story about a high school student who was abused so badly by the group that she eventually took her own life. To keep the scandal from breaking, the parents were simply paid off with a massive pile of money to bury the truth. The guard warns his partner not to let the expensive clothes or handsome faces fool him. He says that behind those locked doors, these people are nothing more than predatory animals. Back in the restroom, Jin To-sin is in a total panic. He demands to know who Si-Chen is and how he managed to get up to a restricted floor. He knows the top level is strictly off limits to outsiders, yet this stranger with glowing red eyes is standing right in front of him. Jin is cornered, realizing his status and money can't help him against the person who just broke into his private world. Jin To-sin tries to act tough, threatening to call the police, have Si-Chen thrown out. He reaches for his phone, but a ringtone suddenly fills the quiet restroom. He looks down at his screen and sees an incoming call from Xiao Yun of the Black Mountain Guild. Si-Chen stares at him, confirming that Jin is the one who sent those thugs to harm Eon. Jin is frozen in shock as he realizes Si-Chen is the one holding Xiao Yun's phone, placing the call while standing 2 feet away. He screams in a panic, demanding to know where his men are and what Si-Chen did to them. Si-Chen doesn't bother answering. He just glares at Jin with glowing red eyes and crushes the phone in his hand until it sparks and shatters. Terrified, Jin stumbles backward into a corner, begging Si-Chen not to come any closer. Jin To-sin loses it completely, screaming at the top of his lungs to know who Si-Chen really is. Before he can get another word out, he's launched through the air. He crashes through the massive glass partition of the restroom, shards of glass flying everywhere. He slams hard onto the tiled floor of the pool area, his face bloodied and his expensive clothes ruined. Terrified and broken, Jin starts wailing for help, begging anyone at the party to save him. He's crying genuine tears, the arrogance he had moments ago completely gone. The crash and his screams finally get the attention of the other guests. People floating in the pool look up in shock, wondering what on earth just happened and why their host was just thrown through a wall. The party comes to a dead halt as heavy footsteps echo across the deck. Si-Chen walks out from the wreckage, draped in a massive cloak of dark energy that looks like shadows coming to life. Jin-Til-sen is on the floor, scrambling backward in pure terror. He's a sobbing mess, screaming and asking what he did to deserve this. He demands to know who Si-Chen is and why he's being targeted. Si-Chen doesn't say a word. He just keeps walking forward, his eyes growing with a cold, predatory light. Jin realizes he's trapped and tries to use his status as a shield. He yells that his father is the director of the first hospital and has enough power to crush anyone. He warns that if Si-Chen touches him even once, his father will have him buried alive. He's completely hysterical now, throwing out empty threats as the shadow of the soul mage looms over him. Si-Chen leans in, his eyes glowing with the pink light of the Nidra skill. He coldly tells Jin to shut up. In an instant, Jin's eyes flare with the same light as the mental hypnosis takes absolute control of his mind. The spoiled director's son is reduced to a hollow shell, unable to speak or resist. Si-Chen looks down at the shards of broken glass littering the floor. He gives a calm, chilling command. Now, pick it up. Jim's hand moves involuntarily, his fingers trembling as they reach for a jagged, razor-sharp piece of glass. He's no longer in control of his own body. As the lesson continues, the truth becomes clear. Pure evil isn't just something found inside a monster dungeon. It lives right in the middle of society, blending in with everyone else every single day. Jin Tuo-sin has spent his life using money to commit whatever crimes he wanted. In his past, he and his friends were seen drugging a helpless girl with pink pills. When she eventually died with a shard of glass in her hand, Jin used his father's status as a hospital director to bury the truth. He ordered the reports to be forged, calling the death a sad accident, and claiming that this was simply how the real world worked. He lived his life believing he could do anything to anyone, using methods more evil than a demon could imagine. The thugs tied to the pillar confirm the truth. They wail that Jin paid them a massive amount of money to make sure Eon never forgot this day, no matter what methods they had to use. But Jin picked the wrong target this time. Si-Chen vows that he will hunt down and eliminate every single threat that comes near his sister. Under the absolute control of the Soul Mage's Nidra skill, Jin is now forced to face the same horror he inflicted on others. He sits on his knees, his eyes glowing pink as he grips a sharp shard of glass with both hands. His fingers are bleeding from the pressure, yet he cannot let go. Si-Chen stares him down with an unwavering gaze and gives a single chilling command. Do it. Si-Chen is willing to walk into the darkest parts of the world to protect Eon, and he won't hesitate for even a single second to finish when he started. By 6 p.m. inside the dungeon, the boss is finally dead. Si-Chen tells a wounded Gong that the exit should open soon, and to hang on until the guild arrives. Gong, barely holding on, promises that once they're out, he'll tell everyone the truth. He wants the world to know Si-Chen is the hero who saved them, but Si-Chen doesn't have time for credit. Suddenly, his eyes flare pink as he senses a massive disturbance. He sees a vision of a man in a suit surrounded by dark energy and realizes Eon is in grave danger. He needs to move right now. Tapping into his Beast Trainer class, he activates the skill Beast Bond, Astropath. Using his mental link, he prepares to teleport straight to his contracted beast to reach his sister before it's too late. Si-Chen vanishes in a burst of multicolored light, leaving Gong alone at the bottom of the crater. Gong is completely stunned by what he just witnessed. He realizes that Si-Chen doesn't just have 2 classes, he has even more. He thinks back to the lightning, the dark soul magic, and now this teleportation, wondering exactly how many secrets Si-Chen is hiding from the world. Heavy footsteps begin to echo through the cave as the rescue team finally arrives. A man in a suit shouts that they've found the survivors and tells the medics to hurry up and get inside. Dong slumps against the rocks, exhausted and bleeding, as the medical team rushes toward him with their supplies to provide emergency aid. Medics rush into the crater shouting for bandages as they scramble to stop Gong's bleeding. An official in a suit approaches, telling Gong that surviving a B-rank boss like that is a literal miracle. Nearby, the examiner is stabilized, still mumbling about the massive swarm of monsters that nearly wiped them out. The official suddenly looks around and realizes someone is missing, demanding to know where the kid named Si-Chen went. When a guard reports that they can't find any trace of him, the official assumes he got terrified and ran away, ordering the men to search the entire area. He's furious, blaming the inspection unit's incompetence for Gong's injuries, and promising to get them all fired once they leave the dungeon. Don just listens in silence, thinking to himself that everyone has it completely wrong. To him, what he witnessed Si-Chen do was absolutely perfect. High above the scene, Gong's father watches the rescue unfold with a cold, unreadable expression. Dong's father is already spinning the story for the witnesses. He explains that things went sideways during the trial and the instructors were taken down by monsters. He tells them that just when all hope was lost, his son Gong stepped forward and saved the day. He laughs to himself, thinking this scenario couldn't be any more perfect for their family reputation. Dong stares at the ground, knowing his father is lying. He's about to speak up and say that Si-Chen was the one who actually cleared the floor and killed the boss. Before he can open his mouth, his father suddenly grabs him right by his chest wound. Gong groans in pain as the man leans in close. His father drops the act and whispers a direct order. It was Gong who handled the monsters. He looks Gong in the eyes, telling him that everyone here witnessed him do it. He grips the bloody bandages even harder, making it clear that Gong has no choice but to take credit for Si-Chen's work. To the rest of the world, Gong is now the hero of the dungeon. Gong is clearly frustrated, but he can't argue with his father. The man just tells him to go get cleaned up and get his act together. Tomorrow is the big graduation ceremony, and his father expects him to play the part of the hero and finally step into the spotlight. Meanwhile, at 8 p.m. in their small rental apartment, things are much more relaxed. Si-Chen, Eon, and Anna Zhu are all clinking soda bottles together to celebrate. Anna is cheering for Eon, congratulating her on finally getting accepted into the International Academy of Fine Arts. It's a huge achievement, and Anna tells her that she's destined to be a world-class artist one day. While the girls laugh and enjoy the meal, Si-Chen stays mostly quiet. He just leans back and takes a long drink of his soda, watching his sister celebrate. After everything that happened in the dungeon and the alleyway, seeing her this happy is the only reward he needs. Eon looks at her brother with a suspicious face, asking why he seems so calm, almost as if he knew she would pass all along. Si-Chen just gives her a warm smile and insists he's genuinely happy. He mentions it's quite a coincidence that she got her acceptance letter on the same day he finished his own major task. Anna adds that she's actually really jealous. Getting into the academy at Tianshan is a massive opportunity that most people will never see in their entire lives. Eon's expression turns a bit somber as she thinks about the reality of it. She mentions that Tianshan is very far away and worries that the cost of living there will be way too expensive for them. Si-Chen sets his drink down and tells her to stop worrying about things like money or distance. He looks her in the eye and reveals that once he graduates, he's going to be working in Tianshan as well. The news completely floors both girls. Anna jumps up, shocked by the revelation. She explains that the organizations in Tianshan are elite guilds that only recruit the absolute best of the best. She demands to know how he managed to land a spot in a place like that. Si-Chen just remains calm, keeping his secrets to himself, while the girls struggle to process the news. The mood is high as Anna and Eon celebrate the fact that they'll all be going to Tianshan together. Si-Chen watches his sister, feeling a deep sense of relief. He's determined that this time, she won't ever have to give up on her dreams for the sake of anyone else. Later that night, Si-Chen takes a shower and reflects on everything that's happened. The immediate threats against Eon have been dealt with, and his graduation requirements are finally complete. He thinks back to his arrangement with Gong in the dungeon. He's perfectly fine letting Gong take the official #1 rank and all the glory that comes with it. All Si-Chen wants is the $1 million reward money. According to their agreement, he'll collect that cash from Gong tomorrow. It's exactly the amount he needs to finally clear the massive debt hanging over their heads. As he dries off, he prepares for the next day, ready to secure his family's future once and for all. Si-Chen sits in the dark, thinking about what the Overlord said. If Raph was actually sealed after coming to the human world, then finding him in Tianshan is his top priority. He realizes the stakes are getting higher every day. Before he heads out, he knows he needs someone he can truly trust to watch his back. He decides that tomorrow's graduation ceremony is the perfect opportunity to find that ally. Elsewhere, a red-haired man sits at a tea table, while a blonde woman gives him a report. She tells him that the glutton was recently spotted in the Zhangtian district. The man asks for all the details. She explains that she checked the site immediately, but every single security camera had been destroyed. The only things left behind were some scratches and bloodstains. It's the same pattern as always. The predator kills its victims first and then devours them. She notes that the target seems to be specifically hunting awakeners with rare and special abilities. The blonde woman continues her report, noting that the level of the glutton's victims is steadily rising. This means the entity is evolving and gaining power at an alarming rate. She warns that once this predator starts moving, it never stops, and her intuition tells her it will strike again very soon. The red-haired man pours a cup of tea, finding the timing suspicious since a dungeon just appeared as well. He admits the situation is becoming very interesting. She tells him there is one more thing, something even more important. She places a set of photos and a map on the table. She explains that the latest incident took place in a cramped alleyway within a low-income housing district. She points to a specific spot on the map marked with an X. That location is only 68 meters away from Si-Chen's home. It's less than 100 meters from where he lives. The red-haired man stares at the map in silence. Even though the killer was practically on Si-Chen's doorstep, the woman admits they still don't have a single image or recording of the glutton's true form. The blonde woman looks at her partner and mentions that Si-Chen's latest performance is hard to believe. His abilities are growing at an illogical rate, and they both saw the way he fights with their own eyes. Because of this, she sees only two real possibilities. The first is that the glutton is now targeting Si-Chen specifically. The red-haired man takes a slow sip of his tea and finishes her sentence. He suggests the second possibility, that the glutton and Si-Chen are actually one and the same.